Chapter 834. Defeat BB Dawn? Brother Phone wants to defeat BB Dawn? What's going on? Could it be that they have reached an agreement? Hearing this, Tang San looked at BB Dawn, felt Bibidon's aura at this time, and clenched his fists. It's still not enough. It's far from enough. We're too weak. Wang Feng, I'll stay to help you. Ning Rongrong looked at BB Dawn in the air and said tenderly, I'll help you defeat this bad woman. Wang Feng shook his head. His current strength was too strong, and he wanted to strengthen himself on this foundation. Ning Rongrong's 9 treasure star glazed pagoda would probably exhaust her in a few seconds. You guys leave first and go back to the Sea God Mountain. Possessie walked over and said in a deep voice, It's no help here. She actually had a way to send Tang San and the others out of the Sea God Mountain. She could summon the great white demon soul shark in the ring-shaped sea along with the sea outside, so as long as they returned to the Sea God Mountain, they would be safe. However, at this time, BB Dawn made a move. Little girl, you're not big, but your mouth is quite fierce. BB Dawn looked at Ning Rongrong, her eyes burning with anger. The next moment, the Rakshasa demon scythe in Bibidon's hand bloomed and drew a giant purple arc in the air. The arc formed a purple light blade, with the aura of tearing the void, and slashed toward Ning Rongrong. The terrifying aura made Possessie's face change dramatically. Even if she was in her best state, she was afraid that she could barely take this blow. This was the power of a true god, although it was very weak and incomplete. Ning Rongrong was scared, but she was not afraid. In her opinion, BB Dawn was a bad woman. Not only her, but Tang San and the others also thought so. Whether it was the Pope's fake intention to attack Tang San and Wang Feng, or the later soul-hunting operation, they were all heinous crimes. Although they didn't succeed, as for Tang San, although Xiao Wu was well preserved, she was indirectly affected by the martial spirit palace and Xiao Wu's mother. They were Bibidon's soul rings. This kind of hatred would never disappear. The purple light blade split apart, and Wang Feng roughly understood Bibidon's strength. Beyond level 99, half a step into the god tier. It was almost impossible for him to defeat her. But if he didn't defeat them, then Wang Feng stepped forward. His black lotus spun, and a translucent pitch-black light shrouded everyone. With Wang Feng's current strength, it would not be an exaggeration to say that Black Lotus, who had the strongest defensive ability, was invincible. In this aspect, it was much easier to use than the Wuji apricot yellow flag of the 5 direction flags. A huge black light shroud covered an area of more than 100 meters. When the purple blade of light struck the pitch-black light barrier, a crack instantly appeared on it. The huge light blade exuded a backflow of evil energy. In just a few seconds, the light shield released by Black Lotus was instantly shattered. However, its power and range were much smaller. Seeing this, Wang Feng stomped his foot and charged forward like a rocket. The soul-slaying spear in his hand condensed, and he directly used the heaven and earth wind and thunder. The moment the greenish-purple spear light came into contact with the purple light blade, there was a burst of violent energy. Halos of different colors colored the void. Wang Feng grunted and retreated quickly. An even smaller light blade struck his body at an even faster speed. A 20-centimeter-long wound appeared. The wound was still corroding his flesh and bones, and it was eroding Wang Feng's spirit. Bibidon's casual strike was already more powerful than the 1,000 Dao stream. After being weakened by the Black Lotus light shield, the purple sickle still had a small amount of power left under Wang Feng's heaven and earth wind and thunder. It was evident. Even Possessie and the 1,000 Dao stream would not be able to withstand this attack. Wang Feng's golden lotus spun, and golden light enveloped the wound. In just a few seconds, it was healed. Under the chaotic green lotus martial soul true body, Wang Feng could use 2 forms at will. It could be said that he was shamelessly strong. Any injury could be healed in an instant. BB Dawn frowned slightly and looked at Wang Feng. He already knew what was going on. Everyone, let's leave. Tang San clenched his fists tightly. He felt that he was weak at this moment. The urge to become stronger in his heart grew stronger. Rationally, he knew that leaving the sea god's island now was the best choice. If he stayed here, he would only be a burden to Brother Feng. Ning Rongrong looked at Wang Feng reluctantly. In fact, ever since they came to the sea god's island. In the first test, when Wang Wu crazily destroyed them, Ning Rongrong felt that there was something wrong with him. Later on, she had been suspicious. Several times, she pretended to provoke him, but the other party was not angry at all. It was the strangest. What kind of person was the white-clothed Pope, Wang Wu? He was such a proud and aloof person. Yet, he actually ignored his verbal provocation. Clearly, something was wrong. At the very least, he would lift her up and beat her up. Now that Wang Feng's identity had been revealed, she could not hug him and talk to him coquettishly. Possessi quickly left with everyone. At this moment, they still felt like they were in a dream. It was as if they had not accepted the situation in front of them. Seeing everyone leave, Wang Feng's expression turned serious. Leave, they are leaving. You're going to die. Bibidon looked at Wang Feng. Countless patterns appeared in his purplish-black pupils, and his 9 soul rings shone in succession. Wang Fengxin said. Bibidon said that he was powerful, but his killing intent was not strong. Were these women all duplicitous? But interestingly, Bibidon did not seem to intend to use his martial soul. Bibidon did not possess his first martial soul, the Death Spider Emperor. It only appeared as a faint shadow. It emitted a sinister aura, and its ugly appearance made people's scalp numb. Bibidon did not reveal his second martial soul, but it was also an arachnid martial soul. It was not much better. Without possession, Bibidon only used the Death Spider Emperor's talent domain. Death domain. Talent domains often had extremely powerful effects. Tang Sin could see it, and as it evolved, it would become stronger and stronger. Although the Death Spider Emperor was ugly, it was indeed a top beast martial soul. It was not inferior to the Blue Silver Emperor. To be precise, Bibidon's 2 great arachnid martial souls were the top existences among beast martial souls. The purplish-green domain spread out and quickly enveloped the area. Wang Feng immediately sensed the power of the death domain. His soul power and other attributes decreased by at least 30%. His spiritual power also seemed to be shackled by layers of shackles and decreased by 30%. The purplish-green fog floated in the entire domain. The moment the forest below came into contact with the purplish-green fog, it was corroded into tree debris. At the same time, Wang Feng felt that the misty shadow, soul skill on his skull, seemed to have disappeared. Some soul skills seemed to have been sealed. Seeing this, Wang Fengxin thought, and the innate 5-element flags appeared in his hand. White light extended from all directions. In a chapter. Chapter 835. Although his soul power was greatly suppressed, Wang Feng's innate pentagonal domain could negate the domain of death around him and prevent him from being affected. At this point, the domain of death was also very effective on Bibidon. Bibidon was right not to use her martial soul true body. Once she used it, she would be attacked by his universal divine light. Her abilities would be greatly reduced, and it would be very disadvantageous for her. Bibidon frowned as she unleashed her innate pentagonal domain. She didn't know that Wang Feng had this domain. Even Hulaina didn't know about it. Wang Feng had unleashed it a few times. When he first awakened this domain in the deep sea, when he fought the deep sea devil whale, and when he fought Poseidon, Bibidon laughed coldly as she looked at the white space. She wasn't afraid at all. So what if it was a new domain? When the 2 domains came into contact, they formed an independent space. While they canceled each other out, they also affected each other. Wang Feng wielded his god-slaying spear and attacked Bibidon. He had his chaotic green lotus true body, innate pentagonal domain, dark angel, and the power of his blood patterns. This was Wang Feng's strongest state. Wang Feng didn't have many offensive soul skills, especially close combat soul skills. The extreme dragon falcon kill was affected by the domain of death, and he couldn't teleport over. As he looked at Bibidon, Wang Feng didn't say anything. He unleashed his heavenly thunderstorm again. However, his leg bone shone this time. A speck of star-like light fused into the soul-slaying spear. Suddenly, the soul-slaying spear shone brightly. The heavenly thunderstorm was accompanied by green and purple light as it pierced towards BB Dawn. It was extremely quick. The heavenly thunderstorm wasn't a soul skill. However, Wang Feng's right leg bone star core soul skill could increase his soul power by 100%. It was equivalent to increasing his strength. Wang Feng had never tried using star cores to enhance his self-created soul skill. Absolute Thunderstorm Divine Spear. Wang Feng nodded as he sensed that this spear was much stronger than before. He didn't expect to use it like this. It was a huge loss. However, Rumble, Bibidon's purplish-black devil scythe suddenly streaked across a violent arc of light and easily deflected the spear. The violent spear light was directly engulfed by the purplish-black rays of light. With a casual strike, Xiaoqin easily broke Wang Feng's full-powered worldly wind lightning. Wang Feng remained silent and continued to attack BB Dawn. Boom! Boom! In midair, an intense light erupted. The two figures intertwined in the clouds. Every time their attacks collided, a violent torrent of clouds would erupt. Wang Feng's figure was sent flying again and again by BB Dawn. Wang Feng had underestimated Bibidon's strength. Well, it wasn't that he underestimated it, because they had never fought before. BB Dawn didn't use any soul skills. Any soul skill could only be used after being possessed by a martial soul. For some reason, BB Dawn didn't use any soul skills at all. But even so, with the strong physique given by the two martial souls, the Rakshasa Divine Power and the Rakshasa Demon Scythe, he could easily resolve any of Wang Feng's attacks. Even when Wang Feng activated the Void Realm, he couldn't escape from Bibidon's spiritual perception. Bibidon's spiritual power was stronger than Possessi's, and not inferior to Wang Feng's. The only difference was that Wang Feng's spiritual power was condensed. But Bibidon's spiritual power didn't seem to be weak either. It was even stronger. Perhaps it was because the other party was half a step into the realm of God. Has his spiritual power condensed into a part of the Godhead? Only those of the same level could cause spiritual damage to BB Dawn. Wang Feng didn't know, but any spiritual attack didn't have much effect on BB Dawn. The tremor sound couldn't hurt him either. The more they fought, the more damage Wang Feng's body was caused by the Rakshasa Demon Scythe. His body began to be covered with dense bloody marks. Qian Lu and Qian Rinxue frowned to the side. Qian Rinxue didn't seem to want to watch anymore. He clenched his hands. If this goes on, he will die. Qian Lu replied. It's not easy to fight with BB Dawn for so long. Although BB Dawn didn't use his martial spirit. But for BB Dawn, the power of that divine weapon is not inferior to his martial spirit. Indeed, in the inheritance of the Rakshasa god, there were many offensive techniques related to the Rakshasa Demon Scythe. The purple scythe from before was one of them. These techniques were divine skills. Even if BB Dawn hadn't completely inherited the godhead, the strength it displayed was not something a soul master could resist. It was just that if he used his martial spirit, Bibidon's attack methods would be more varied and powerful. Boom! Another spear was deflected by Bibidon's demon scythe again. The demon scythe left a deep wound on Wang Feng's body. Bibidon's hand trembled slightly and loosened a little. Looking at Wang Feng, who was sent flying again, it seemed to vent the anger in its heart. The coldness in its voice lessened a little. Wang Wu, you can't defeat me. Wang Feng stood in the same place. His clothes were ragged, but his face was incomparably calm. BB Dawn was almost uninjured. It was just that there were a few more wounds on its arm because of its own god-slaying spear. Even if the injuries couldn't be healed, BB Dawn could easily suppress it. It's indeed impossible. Wang Feng looked at BB Dawn with deep eyes. With his current strength, it was too difficult to defeat BB Dawn. BB Dawn hadn't become a god, but it was definitely in the state of a demigod. Its strength was beyond level 99. It also had a divine weapon. When one's strength reached such a level, it was no longer a matter of some kind of technique or one or two soul skills. BB Dawn was now stronger than the deep-sea demon whale. It was even possible for BB Dawn to kill the deep-sea demon whale if it wanted to. Both of its martial spirits were full of soul rings. What did that mean? It should be known that Tang San's 8th test was to add soul rings to both martial spirits and cultivate to the level of a titled Douluo. If Wang Feng hadn't cultivated on the Sea Gods Island for 2 years, and his body's potential hadn't been developed after being cleansed by the chaotic divine light, it would be difficult for him to fight with Bibidon now. Then why are you still struggling? Bibidon looked at Wang Feng calmly. Don't force me to kill you. When it said this, the demon's scythe in Bibidon's hand trembled slightly. I still have to struggle after all. Wang Feng smiled. The smile on his face stunned Bibidon. The light of the golden lotus enveloped his body again. Coupled with his powerful, self-healing ability, all of his injuries were recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. At the same time, the soul power stored in the black lotus flowed into his body continuously. Bibidon didn't know what he wanted to do. He just frowned and watched. In less than 10 seconds, Wang Feng instantly recovered to his peak state. Seeing this, Bibidon's eyes flashed with a strange light. Even she had consumed a lot of soul rings just now. This brat wants to try again? Dalu frowned. Does he have masochistic tendencies? He was suppressed by Bibidon the whole time just now. Even if he recovered now. At this moment, Dalu suddenly saw Wang Feng remove his domain and chaotic green lotus martial spirit true body. The different forms of the martial spirits all disappeared. Wang Feng was the only one who was naked. Although the enhancement on his body was still there, it was really hard to understand. What was he trying to do? He didn't even use the martial spirit palace? Did he give up on himself? In the next moment, Wang Feng opened his left hand and took a deep breath. An ordinary axe martial spirit appeared in his palm. Seeing this scene, countless pairs of eyes looked at it in astonishment. This is his 3rd martial spirit? P.S. There are still 2 more chapters to go. I'm too tired and sleepy. Let's put it on tomorrow. Tomorrow 10. Please count the votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 836. 3rd Martial Soul. Everyone's mind went blank at this moment. Looking at that simple axe, Poptif Wangwu, 9-1 Kai, Monster Captain Wang Feng. He has so many identities, but he actually has a 3rd martial soul? What is a triplet martial soul? Until now, no one on the continent has a triplet martial soul. Even those with twin martial souls could be counted with one's fingers, and every single one of them was recorded. The difficulty of cultivating twin martial souls was already terrifying enough to make people's hair stand on end, not to mention triplet martial souls. No wonder. His cultivation speed is obviously very exaggerated, but his soul power is only at rank 80, Qianrenshu muttered, triplet martial souls, although he had never heard of it before. But theoretically speaking, this wasn't impossible. From the perspective of a parent, if one of the parents had twin martial souls, there was a possibility of passing down 3 martial souls to their offspring. However, this probability was too small. Other than that, he had never heard of it before. This brat's talent can be considered unprecedented. 1,000 streams stroked his white beard. A single green lotus can transform into 8 different forms, and he also has a mutated dark angel martial spirit. Speaking of which, this martial spirit should have a very deep relationship with our 6-winged angel clan. However, both of his martial souls are very strong. The Dark Angel martial soul has a strong suppressive effect on the 6-winged angels of our clan. At this point, Qian Lu stared at the axe martial soul in Wang Feng's hand for a few times. But why does this axe martial soul look so ordinary? When he used 9-1 Kai to register his identity, he used this axe martial soul to register. So it's true. Furthermore, this axe martial soul does not have any soul rings, so it can't be that strong. Even with Qian Lu's knowledge, he could not feel anything special about the axe martial soul in Wang Feng's hand. The other titled Dalu could not see anything special about it. This is a tool, martial soul. Poptif's axe martial soul. Could it be stronger than the number 1 tool martial soul on the continent, the Clear Sky Hammer? The titled Dalu behind 1,000 Dalu were discussing amongst themselves. However, Even the clear sky hammer could not defeat the current His Majesty the Pope. Triplet martial spirit. BB Don was silent for a moment. He looked at Wang Feng with a cold smile. The cultivation of the triplet martial spirit is more difficult than the twin martial spirits. Other than your azure lotus martial soul, your angel-type martial soul doesn't even have a soul ring. This martial soul isn't attached to it either. Not to mention this axe martial soul. You also don't have a single soul ring. Do you think you can defeat me with this? BB Don also saw the key point. This axe didn't have a single soul ring. Without a soul ring, even the clear sky hammer wouldn't be able to unleash its full potential. What was the use of having triplet martial spirits? Furthermore, if he used this axe martial spirit, his azure lotus martial spirit wouldn't be able to be used. On the contrary, his combat strength should be even lower. In fact, it didn't even have a single soul skill. Even if it manifested, how powerful could it be? We have to give it a try. After Wang Feng finished speaking, the soul power in his body surged towards the Pangu axe. Sai, look, if you don't manifest, people will think you're an ordinary axe. The moment the soul power surged into the Pangu axe martial soul, an intense beam of light suddenly lit up from the Pangu axe. In an instant, it covered Wang Feng's entire body and shot into the sky. An even more terrifying power spread from Wang Feng's left palm to his upper body. The clothes on his upper body were directly shattered into pieces. The effect of the Pangu axe's tearing clothes was still so outstanding. Wang Feng felt ashamed. The scarlet blood patterns were like streams of lava flowing all over Wang Feng's body. It made Wang Feng look like a demon from hell. It was completely different from before. The intense beam of light emitted by the Pangu axe seemed to have injected a mysterious power into Wang Feng, causing his body to seem to have increased in size. The increasingly majestic energy condensed into a beam of light that shot into the sky and shook the heavens. In just a moment, the Pangu axe gradually turned into a solid axe under the influx of soul power. The simple and unadorned axe blade emitted a terrifying aura that caused the heavens to change color. The ancient axe body seemed to have been carved from ancient trees during the Chaos era. It had a long and heavy sense of history. When the axe landed in Wang Feng's hands and he held the Pangu axe again, bright light shone from Wang Feng's body. The beam of light that shot into the sky caused the heavens and earth to change color. At this moment, Wang Feng looked more like an ancient giant from the ancient era. The blood patterns on his body seemed to have become a foil. The 14 pairs of wings on his back also seemed dim under the beam of light. This changed in an instant. It shocked everyone once again. It was too strange and too magical. A moment ago, it was still an ordinary axe. The moment it took shape, it emitted such a terrifying energy fluctuation. No one had ever seen such a magical martial soul. Even the most experienced and knowledgeable soul master in the world of soul masters could not explain this situation. If a grandmaster was here, he could only watch in a daze. Moreover, it was an extremely sharp energy fluctuation that seemed to be able to split the heavens and earth. That beam of light caused the martial souls of everyone present to tremble. The huge shock brought about by the reversal of the two extremes caused everyone, except for BB Don, to fall into a daze. Wang Feng's ultimate trump card, which had been hidden for more than 10 years, finally revealed a trace of its sharpness to the world at this moment. In terms of trump cards, the Pangu axe could be considered the number one. After that, only the meteoric tear and the system were left. The current Pangu axe was not like the one Wang Feng used in the past. Although it could not be said to be perfect, Wang Feng was still very familiar with the Pangu axe. He was also familiar with the enormous power that the Pangu axe carried. Wang Feng was clear that if he wanted to defeat BB Don, perhaps only the Pangu axe had a slight chance. Holding the Pangu axe in his hand, there was no trace of residual power in his body. The beam of light, which seemed to be able to destroy the heavens and the earth, made this part of the sky become much darker. When this beam of light shot straight into the sky, the people of the Martial Spirit Palace were not the only ones who were shocked. In the distant deep sea, there were low and angry roars. That was the roar of the recuperating deep-sea demon whale. He sensed the aura that made him feel fear for the first time in his life. It was that human again. He was stirring up trouble. At the same time, Tang San and the others who had retreated to the circular coast. They also looked into the distance with a shocked face. They were not unfamiliar with the beam of light that shot into the sky. Possessi was also familiar with it. This beam of light. It was also very familiar. It's him. It's that peerless expert. The 9 people immediately looked at the beam of light in the distance in horror. Could it be Brother Feng? Tang San murmured. The one who saved us in the demon whale sea that day was Brother Feng? But what the hell is that? They were now far away from the battlefield and could not see the specific situation clearly. But this beam of light could prove that the peerless expert who saved them in the demon whale sea that day had appeared, and the position where he appeared could only be Wang Feng. This Wang Wu. Possessi was shocked and looked into the distance strangely. She thought that the peerless beam of light should be a nameless peerless Douluo who was almost the same as her. She even asked Wang Wu before. However, when he thought about it, he realized that all those words were actually praising himself. End of this chapter. Chapter 837. He's really naughty. Possessi felt a little funny, but she was more shocked because she thought about it. This Wang Feng was about the same age as Tang San and the others, only in his early 20s. But he already had such powerful strength. How young was he? Senior, what exactly is this light pillar? The group looked at Possessi. Possessi pondered for a moment and said, it might be a martial soul or a special soul skill. I'm not too sure, but it symbolizes a power that can destroy heaven and earth. This was not nonsense. Possessi could indeed feel the power contained in this light pillar. Her perception was much stronger than these people. Can he beat that bad woman? Ning Rong Rong said nervously. Possessi was silent for a moment. In fact, she knew Bibidan's strength very well. She was no longer someone a soul master could defeat. Even she couldn't defeat her on the sea god's island. She was infinitely close to becoming a god, so the other party was half a step into the realm of gods. Seeing Possessi remain silent, everyone became nervous again. Could it be that there was not much hope for such a powerful force? All right, you don't have to worry too much. That child should have the means to escape. Possessi looked into the distance with a strange smile on her face. He never does things that he's not confident in. Since he used this kind of power, he naturally has his own thoughts. Don't worry, he won't die. I have a feeling that even if you all die, he might still be alive. Everyone, so now, you'd better leave this place as soon as possible. Possessi's feeling was not wrong. Wang Feng, who held the Pangu axe, did not have the enhancement of the soul-devouring blood wings, but he had the power of the Pangu axe. This was the power of the Pangu axe itself. Wang Wu, you're really giving me more and more surprises. Bibidan stared at the center of the light pillar, at the man who was more like a god than her. No, Bibidan even had the illusion that the gods in the universe could not be compared to her, although she had never seen a god. Of course, this was talking about momentum, not strength. Don't worry, there's more. I just don't know if you can handle it. Wang Feng took a deep breath and opened the void mirror again. His entire body had reached another extreme. His figure moved, and the void trembled. Beneath Wang Feng's foot, the ocean wave forest exploded into a huge hole in the void. An explosive aura reverberated through the clouds, and an invisible shockwave exploded out the moment Wang Feng moved. In the blink of an eye, Wang Feng's axe chopped down on Bibidan. The axe seemed to be separated by an infinite distance, but in the blink of an eye, it chopped down on Bibidan. A faint sense of danger welled up in his heart. Bibidan was slightly shocked. Even Wang Feng's attack just now did not make her feel any sense of danger. But now there was... Bibidan did not dare to underestimate this axe. With a soft whistle, the purplish-black aura in Bibidan's body crazily gushed out from her body and poured into the devil's scythe, causing it to emit a violent purplish-black halo. Holding the devil's scythe, Bibidon faced the axe head-on. A purple halo burst out from the devil's scythe. Boom! In an instant, the moment the devil's scythe touched the Pangu axe, it began to tremble. This trembling was transmitted to Bibidon, causing her to be overwhelmed with shock. The devil's scythe was a divine tool. At this moment, even a divine tool was afraid. How is this possible? This was a divine tool, not a tool martial spirit. Even if the clear sky hammer was in front of it, it was impossible for a divine tool to have the slightest fear. Even a divine tool of the same level could not do this. Under the fear, a sonorous sound resounded through the sky. An invisible shockwave from the point of contact shook the void to an endless distance. Bibidon's figure fell rapidly. The strength of this axe was so great that even she could not withstand it. It also contained an extremely terrifying aura that could tear the sky apart, as if it could tear the universe apart. Boom! As Bibidon's figure fell, a huge pit that was a few hundred meters deep was formed in the sea below. Countless seawater, sand, and mud shot out in all directions, as if a dazzling flower had bloomed in the sea. Beside her, Dalu, Qianrenxue, and the other tidal Dao's expressions changed drastically, and they quickly retreated in all directions. Under the collision of such a huge amount of energy, even a tidal Dalu would not be able to remain unharmed under the aftershock of the axe and the scythe. Is this the strength of a god rank? Qianrenxue muttered. No, this is only the strength of a demigod. It is only beyond level 99 and has not reached the strength of a level 100 true god. Dalu frowned and said, Your mother is stronger than me, but she has the Rakshasa demon scythe and can unleash even greater strength. You are weaker than your mother because you have just passed the 8th test and you can't fully control your own strength, and you only have one martial soul. There is a huge difference between 2 martial souls inheriting the deity position and 1 martial soul inheriting the deity position. The Rakshasa god is not stronger than the angel god. Only the inheritor is stronger. Qianrenxue nodded silently. Then Wang Feng, if he inherits the deity position, Qianrenxue suddenly asked. Dalu frowned and thought for a long time, but he did not answer. God was another realm, and Dalu was not clear about it, so he naturally would not speculate. But, generally speaking, gods would choose their inheritors. Wang Feng's talent and strength were so outstanding that if there was a god, he would definitely be favored. But he did not have the aura of a god. On the contrary, Tang San just now had a very strong aura and fluctuation of a god. Seeing that his grandfather did not answer, Qianrenxue did not ask any more questions. At this moment, they all retreated. Another long howl was heard, and a figure was suddenly shaken out from the 2 exploding halos. It was Bibidon. With the support of Wang Feng's current strength, the power that the Pangu axe could unleash had reached an extremely terrifying level. On the surface of the sea, under this axe, even the aftermath had cut open a monstrous water mark hundreds of meters long. The seawater on both sides rose like a waterfall and flowed crazily. Seeing Bibidon being shaken away, Wang Feng did not hesitate and chopped directly at Bibidon with his axe again. Clang! An ear-piercing sound, along with the sound of shaking and cracking, rang out again from the contact between the 2. This time, it was 2 figures that exploded. Wherever the axe light went, there was nothing it could not chop. Under the light beam, Wang Feng seemed to have transformed into an ancient god that opened up the void. Every axe strike unleashed a power that could shake the heavens and split the sea. The sea was overturned, and countless seawater churned in this sea area, rolling up high and then falling down. But all of this could only become the background of the battle between the 2. Bibidon let out a long howl, and 9 soul rings lit up on his body again, 8 black and 1 red. It was Bibidon's 2nd martial soul, the soul-devouring Spider Emperor. Finally, under the pressure of the Pangu axe, Bibidon had no choice but to use an even stronger strength. Wang Wu, Bibidon's cold voice was accompanied by trembling anger, and his face even flushed red. This was a huge emerald green spider emperor. Its entire body was covered with emerald green patterns, and there were 2 pairs of eyes on its forehead and 6 spider legs. After being possessed by the martial soul, 6 emerald green spider spears appeared on Bibidon's back. Emerald green net-like patterns also appeared on its forehead, and its entire body was covered with a layer of emerald green light. End of this chapter. Chapter 838. Her figure changed slightly. She didn't look as ravishing as before, but she still had a demonic sense of beauty. However, this was only a martial soul possession, and not a martial soul true body. Her soul rings lit up, and the demonic sickle's aura became even stronger. Wang Feng didn't say anything, and swung his axe at Bibidon again. The Pango axe drained a lot of energy. The stronger he was, the stronger the Pango axe was, and the more energy he consumed. Fortunately, Wang Feng was now rank 80, and his soul power was sufficient. Furthermore, Wang Feng wasn't afraid of any of Bibidon's soul skills. Just like how Wang Feng didn't use any soul skills, he didn't even use any soul skills from his soul bones. This was because Wang Feng knew that any soul bone's soul skills couldn't compare to the strength of the Pango axe. They probably wouldn't be effective against Bibidon either, unless it was an even stronger 8th ninth soul skill, but Wang Feng didn't have one right now. Bibidon was the same. After her martial soul possession, she borrowed her martial soul's strength to strengthen her demonic sickle. She didn't want to use her martial soul true body. If she didn't use her martial soul true body, she wouldn't be able to unleash the full strength of her 8th ninth soul skill. The 2 of them clashed once again. Wang Feng was expressionless as he swung his axe at Bibidon again and again. Even Bibidon felt as if her entire body was falling apart every time she was struck by an axe. Furthermore, the strength of every strike was gradually increasing. This was because Wang Feng had become much stronger since the last time he used the Pango axe. Furthermore, Wang Feng didn't use the Pango axe often. This was why he allowed the Pango axe to adapt to his increasing strength when he used it this time. This was why every strike was gradually increasing in strength. Boom! The axe struck the demonic sickle once again. The Rakshasa demonic sickle trembled intensely, and Bibidon roared furiously. Her first soul ring lit up, and her 6th soul ring lit up. The 6 spider spears on her back intersected to form a jade-green Yao-shaped light blade towards Wang Feng. However, this light blade instantly disappeared when it landed on the pillar of light on Wang Feng's body. Bibidon was slightly stunned when she saw this. Her soul skills were ineffective. Evidently, the beam of light on Wang Feng's body was not an ordinary beam of light. Perhaps it was merely a decoration. How could the special effects of Panga's axe be just for show? It could be said that most energy attacks were ineffective against Wang Feng. If he wanted to hurt Wang Feng, he would have to rely on his strength to crush Wang Feng. Or he could use his 8th and 9th soul skills or special inherited divine skills. The injuries caused by Wang Feng using the Pango axe were mostly caused by the backlash of the Pango axe. The power of each axe strike was not only borne by the enemy, but also by Wang Feng himself. The first time he used it, his entire body was shattered. Although Wang Feng had grown stronger, the Pango axe was also growing stronger. It would still cause damage to Wang Feng. It was just that the damage was much smaller. In fact, the purplish-black aura on Bibidon's body made him immune to most soul skills. This was the difference between a human and a god. It was too difficult to use a soul skill to defeat his opponent. Only someone of the same rank could use a soul skill to injure the other party. The 2 of them separated again, and countless clouds of smoke exploded in the air again. Cracks started to appear on Wang Feng's skin, and countless hair-like wounds seeped out. His entire body was bathed in the pillar of light, and steam was rising. He did not know how many times he had swung his axe. The surrounding sea seemed to have been overturned by the 2 of them. A third of the sea god's island was submerged. Boundless tsunamis fell like a storm, piercing the sea and sea god's island. Fortunately, there was no damage inland. The ships of the Martial Spirit Hall had already been pushed away. Some of the ships were even lifted. The soul masters inside used all kinds of flying-type soul skills to escape in fear. The soul masters that they chose to go out to sea all had a certain level of flying ability. From this, it could be seen that the Martial Spirit Hall was well prepared. Huff! Wang Feng's breath was scorching hot, and his entire body was red. The burden of Panga's axe was too great. However, only this kind of strength could allow Wang Feng to fight Bibi Dan without being suppressed. A very important reason was that Bibidan's Rakshasa demon scythe was suppressed by Panga's axe. This made it difficult for Bibi Dan to unleash the full strength of the Rakshasa demon scythe. This was why Wang Feng was able to fight Bibi Dan to a draw. In the distance, the purplish-black aura around Bibidan's body was getting thicker. The boiling soul power in his body was also being depleted by more than half. Wang Wu, let me ask you one last time. Bibi Dan took a deep breath. His voice was not as cold as before, and he was very calm. With 2 martial souls and a soul power foundation that surpassed rank 99, Bibidan's current state was much better than Wang Feng's. There's no need to ask. I've already made my choice. Wang Feng shook his head. If I can't defeat you today, then you can kill me. Even though he said that, Wang Feng was still calculating in his heart. Tang San, Zhu Zhuqing, and the others should have already left the Divine Sea Island. If they left, then Sea God's Island would no longer be under Wang Feng's protection. Wang Feng could also find an opportunity to leave. It would be difficult for him to defeat Bibi Dan with Panga's axe. If he couldn't win, he could run. It wasn't embarrassing to fight Bibi Dan to a draw. Even if he lost, he would have another chance in the future. Furthermore, this place was the Sea God's territory. Although Bibi Dan said that he wanted to destroy Sea God's Island, he wouldn't really do that. If he really cut off the Sea God's inheritance, the Sea God might even go down to the lower realm to kill him. He only said that to intimidate Possessi and Tang San. He wanted to raise the morale of his people and establish his authority. Wang Feng knew Bibi Dan very well. A leader who didn't know how to boast and fool his subordinates wasn't a good pope. Wang Feng didn't know how many people he had fooled, so he was very familiar with this. Hearing that, Bibidan's face calmed down. The next moment, the Rakshasa demon scythe in her hand suddenly burned with flames. The purple-black flames represented the most evil and evil aura. As if they were nourishment, the Rakshasa demon scythe emitted a dazzling light. This was the Rakshasa god's inherited divine skill, the evil flame demon scythe. It stimulated the evil aura in the body and absorbed all kinds of evil thoughts into the divine artifact, so that it could exert a powerful force. Of course, Bibi Dan hadn't become a true god yet. Using this move would cause a lot of damage to her body. But at this moment, she only wanted to defeat the stubborn man in front of her and capture him. Wang Fengxin was stunned. He had crossed so many levels. At this moment, he also felt that Bibidan's attack was not simple. Maybe it would be gone. Wang Feng activated the remaining soul power in his body. He could only use all his strength to block this move with Panga's axe. End of chapter. Chapter 839. Both of them suddenly disappeared from their original positions. Like 2 comets colliding, they blasted towards each other. Qian Rinxue, who was watching from afar, suddenly became nervous. She knew that this attack would determine the winner. From an objective point of view, Qian Rinxue believed that Wang Feng would definitely lose. There was no chance of victory. It was already a dreamlike situation for Wang Feng to fight to a draw with Bibi Dan with a strange axe martial soul that didn't have any soul rings. However, the difference in foundation was too great. Bibidan's soul power was far from what Wang Feng could compare with. Moreover, Bibidan's evil flame devil scythe was several times stronger than before. It had already exceeded Wang Feng's limit. In fact, Wang Feng was also aware of this. However, at this moment, when Wang Feng swung his axe, the cracks on his body suddenly burst out with blood. Countless streams of blood converged into the Pangu axe in his hand, like rivers returning to the sea. In an instant, the light pillar on Wang Feng's body suddenly doubled in size. The Pangu axe erupted with even more terrifying flames. This sudden outburst caused the spectators to be somewhat stunned. Wang Feng was also stunned. However, when he felt the blood flowing out of his body, he somewhat understood. At this moment, he was burning his own blood essence to transform it into energy, increasing the strength of the Pangu axe's attack by another level. To put it simply, violent blood attack. However, this consumption was extremely terrifying because it was Wang Feng's blood essence that was being burned. How precious was Wang Feng's blood essence? It was simply a great tonic for those soul beasts. It was very fragrant. However, as the blood flowed out crazily, it merged into the Pangu axe. Wang Feng actually felt that he couldn't control it. This wasn't good. Boom! In the next moment, the Pangu axe and the evil flame devil scythe clashed again. The terrifying power seemed to distort the scene around the two of them. Both of their bodies shook at the same time. Wang Feng was the first to spit out blood. He felt that his body was being crushed by a great force. Fortunately, the heart meteoric tear slowly released traces of energy to repair his body. However, his blood flowed into the Pangu axe continuously. The power was increasing crazily, but Wang Feng felt that he was getting weaker and weaker. He couldn't help but be shocked. Pangu's axe was truly a double-edged sword. If one were to use it recklessly due to insufficient strength, the one who would die would be him. With this support, the Pangu axe directly suppressed the evil flame devil scythe in Bibidan's hand, chopping towards Bibidan inch by inch. Bibidan was also stunned. He didn't expect Wang Feng to be able to unleash such terrifying power at this moment. What the hell is this? If she had known this would happen, she would have used her martial soul true body. However, Bibidan could only circulate the soul force in his body with all his might as the two tyrannical forces intertwined. He didn't dare to do anything else. Both of them were extremely nervous at this moment. Wang Feng stared at Bibidan, who was right in front of him, and discovered that Bibidan's face was filled with an extremely demonic coldness. Other than anger, there was also shock in his eyes. At this moment, looking from afar, Wang Feng was like a giant as his axe chopped down on the evil flame devil scythe in Bibidan's hand with the force of splitting mountains. The small amount of energy that flowed out formed a violent air current around the two of them, just like a tornado. The people in the distance were terrified when they saw this. If they stepped into that violent air current, they would probably be crushed into pieces. Wang Feng. Seems like he's going to win. Qian Renshua looked at the scene in the distance in disbelief. They had retreated at least a few thousand meters. However, they could still see the situation in front of them clearly. Wang Feng's axe actually gained the upper hand, and it was slowly falling towards Bibidan's body. How is this possible? Qian Renshua was also very puzzled, because this was too strange. However, he vaguely understood something when he looked at Wang Feng, whose body was covered with blood runes. It can only be said that it was amazing. This last attack was incredible. At this moment, in the ring-shaped sea, Tang San and the others who were on top of the great white demon soul shark yesterday were about to leave. At this moment, the light pillar in the distance suddenly burst out with an even more intense light, which startled them. Possessi was also slightly startled. She had been watching the light pillar since it started. Through the changes in the light pillar, even if she couldn't see it clearly, she could still understand it. At this moment, the light pillar suddenly became stronger. Thinking of this, Possessi suddenly rose into the air. She who had recovered some of her soul power flew into the air and looked into the distance. Then, she sucked in a breath of cold air. He actually won. Possessi's eyes emitted a blue light, which allowed her to see the scene of the two fighting thousands of meters away. The two different auras were dense, making the sky look chaotic. Ordinary soul masters couldn't see it clearly, but she could see it clearly. Wang Feng had the upper hand. At the same time, Possessi also saw the source of the light. It was vaguely an axe. It was a mysterious and profound axe. How is this possible? How could Wang Feng defeat BB Dawn? Possessy found it hard to believe. How could a human defeat a god? Even if BB Dawn was only at the demigod stage and not a true god. But there was also a natural chasm between them. Wang Feng, who was at rank 80, was already so strong. Wang Feng, who was at rank 79, was barely suppressed by her in the Sea God Mountain. With the strength of rank 80, even in the Sea God Mountain, she was no match for him at all. But Possessy knew the key to this, the axe. That axe gave Wang Feng a combat power that surpassed the limits of a soul master. Possessy glanced down at Tang San and the others who had gradually disappeared into the sea and remained silent. Her heart was still in endless shock. However, at this moment, only Wang Feng knew that he was about to die. The stronger the Pangu axe was now, the more serious the loss of blood essence in his body was. Even if he defeated BB Dawn, he would definitely die in his body. Even the meteoric tear would not be able to save him from the damage caused by burning his blood essence. Seeing the Pangu axe chopping towards her inch by inch, Bibidon's expression changed drastically. She only felt a great force that she could not resist. The evil flame demon scythe was swallowed by the light beam. There was even a faint aura of death emitting from the axe. BB Dawn was shocked and angry in her heart. He wants to kill me? Staring at Wang Feng, whose eyes were bloodshot and whose blood was flowing crazily, BB Dawn roughly knew that Wang Feng must be using some special ability to burn the blood in his body to activate the great power of the axe. If this goes on, he might die. But why did he do this? He wants to kill me even if he dies. BB Dawn seemed to understand and couldn't help but twitch. Her heart gradually turned cold, and the purple-black aura around her became stronger. Killing intent leaped out from her eyes. End of this chapter. Chapter 840. Why? BB Dawn looked at Wang Feng. Her eyes were also burning with flames. Then let's die together, BB Dawn laughed. She did not know that Wang Feng's current situation was not something he could control. The blood essence in his body had already flowed into Pangu axe. This violent blood attack was like a flood breaking through a dam. The blood essence in his body was completely out of control. Bibidon's eyes were filled with 30% determination, 30% pain, 30% memories, and finally anger. She looked at Pangu axe, slowly chopping down on her body. Her eyes were filled with purplish-black light. Luosha Death Ray. This was the Luosha inheritance she had inherited. It was not a powerful move, but at this moment, it was enough to take her opponent's life. Her eyes were filled with purplish-black light. However, at this moment, Wang Feng suddenly roared. The mental power in his sea of consciousness was surging like an ocean, crazily condensing. Wang Feng did not want to kill BB Dawn, and he did not want to die. This violent blood attack was unintentionally activated, making it hard for Wang Feng to control. At this moment, his consciousness was completely focused on how to stop this violent blood attack. The blood in his body was being crazily absorbed by Pangu axe. Subconsciously, Wang Feng used the front secret word, driving his huge mental power, trying to control his state. Under the high concentration of his consciousness, under the will of not wanting to die, his mental power, which had reached a bottleneck, suddenly surged with monstrous waves. The originally boundless sea of consciousness was actually shrinking rapidly. It was incomparably strange. However, Wang Feng knew that this was the sign of his mental power being compressed. When it was compressed to a certain extent, it would turn from liquid to solid. The capacity of his mental power seemed to be shrinking, but Wang Feng knew that his mental power was increasing. Sure enough, when this sea of consciousness was compressed into a small pond, Wang Feng felt that he could control the situation in his body. The blood in his eyes gradually recovered. Only then did he realize the situation in front of him. Pangu axe was about to chop Bibidon's neck. The evil flame devil scythe in Bibidon's hand seemed to have been shaken away. Seeing this, Wang Feng quivered and quickly controlled the blood essence in his body. After losing his blood essence, Pangu Axe's aura suddenly weakened. Wang Feng felt his entire body become extremely weak. It was as if he had been hollowed out. He felt that he was only a few steps away from death. The beam of light on Wang Feng's body quickly disappeared, and so did the Pangu axe. Wang Feng retreated slightly and was about to leave. However, right at this moment, a purplish-black light burst out from Bibidon's eyes and blasted into Wang Feng's heart. Rumble. This Bibidon's death ray, which was filled with determination and anger, instantly pierced through the center of Wang Feng's chest, who was currently extremely weak and unable to dodge. A huge hole was blasted open. At this time, Bibidon's eyes suddenly woke up. She touched the bloodstain on her neck and looked at Wang Feng blankly. You? Why did you let go? Wang Feng was also stunned. When he saw the purplish-black light shooting out of Bibidon's eyes, he realized that something was wrong. He was afraid that Bibidon thought that he wanted to kill her just now. She was so angry and desperate that she wanted to die together with him. But it was too late, Wang Feng. A sharp cry came from afar. Not only was Wang Feng's chest pierced by the death ray, but his entire body was also blasted thousands of meters away. His entire body was enveloped by the aura of the death ray, as if he was being devoured. Bibidon was stunned. Looking at Wang Feng's figure, she seemed to have turned into a statue. The anger in his heart instantly disappeared without a trace. If he had held on for a few more seconds, I wouldn't have been able to. Why? Why did she suddenly stop? Heaven and earth fell into an incomparable silence. Why? Why did you kill him? Qianrenshua rushed in front of Bibidon and looked at Bibidon furiously. Are you so cruel? If he really wanted to go against you, he wouldn't have admitted his identity just now. If I were him, if I really wanted to go against you, I would have ignored everything when I appeared just now. When you guys were fighting, I would have used that axe to attack you. You trusted him so much that you wouldn't be too wary of him. After you entered the sea god's island and fought with those sea soul masters, he only needed to find an opportunity to attack you from behind. Even if he couldn't do it, he would still be able to severely injure you. With the strength he displayed just now, how could you escape? He didn't do that. He didn't want to go against you at all. He didn't want to hurt us either. Qianrenshua looked at Bibidon with tears in her eyes. After he became a spy, did he do anything to betray the martial spirit palace? He didn't even kill any of your subordinates, those titled Douluo. When you were in the 8th trial, if he wanted to kill you and destroy your godly position, wouldn't it be a piece of cake? But instead, he helped you. But now you are so ruthless. Hearing Qianrenshua's angry and desperate questioning, Luo Binghe smiled. Bibidon opened his mouth, but remained silent. In any case, he did help him at that time. Say something. Qianrenshua looked at Bibidon. The hatred that had disappeared in her eyes began to reappear. Bibidon didn't answer, just looked into the distance. The Rakshasa's death ray pierced through Wang Feng's heart. It was impossible for him to survive. This was different from the last time in the Pope's palace. This time, she saw it with her own eyes. With her strength, what she used was the Rakshasa god's divine skill. Although it was incomplete, she could kill Wang Feng 2 or 3 times at that time. The death aura contained in the death ray could even corrode the weak Wang Feng to nothing, devouring all the life aura. Bibidon clenched his hands, expressionless. Seeing that Bibidon didn't speak, Qianrenshua didn't care anymore. Instead, she quickly flew in the direction of Wang Feng. Qianrenshua walked over and said after a moment of silence, Wang Feng is dead. Our goal this time can be considered as achieved. As for Tang San and the others. Hearing this, Bibidon's body trembled. She waved her hand and said calmly, let's go back to the mainland first. Tang San and the others must have returned to the mainland. We'll talk about it when the time comes. As for the Sea God's Island, my strength is now less than 10%. We have no chance of winning if we fight head-on, so there's no need to waste our strength. Return to the headquarters of the Alliance and quickly absorb the remaining stubborn forces of the 2 empires into the Alliance. Qianrenshua nodded slightly, but her heart was filled with emotions. He vaguely guessed the final situation. But at this time, it was meaningless to say it out loud. A single slip would cause everlasting sorrow. If a person died, there would be nothing left. Qianrenxue looked at Qianrenxue's figure and sighed softly. Xiao Shui was not young anymore. She had fallen in love. Who knew how much she would hate her mother now? Who knew how long she would be sad? Turning around, Qianrenxue glanced at the sea god's island and left first. Bibi Dawn looked into the distance. After a long time, she suddenly turned around. Tears flowed out of the corners of her eyes, like drops of crystal sinking into the boundless sea. P.S. There are 5 more updates in the evening. Please count the votes. This chapter ends. Chapter 841. Sea God Mountain. Possessie looked into the distance, lost in thought. After a long time, she let out a long sigh. She was looking at the direction where Wang Feng was hit by Bibidon's Rakshasa ray. Possessie had been paying attention to the battle since Tang San left the ring-shaped sea on the great white demon soul shark. After all, this was related to the safety of the sea god's island. If Wang Feng could not stop Bibi Dawn, Tang San and the others would be in danger. Even the sea god's mountain was extremely dangerous. Possessie did not know Bibidon's character. Who knew if she would really go crazy and destroy the sea god's mountain? In truth, towards the end, Bai Saishi was rather pleased. From the looks of it, Wang Feng's strength was enough to resist Bibi Dawn. He could even defeat her. Seeing this, Poseidon could be said to have eaten a pill of reassurance. However, the situation was completely out of Possessie's expectation. How could this be? Possessie sighed her heart. That child was so talented. Even if he did not inherit the godhood, it would be a miracle to see how far he could go in the future. But she did not expect that he would be gone just like that. Possessie had a vague idea of the reason when she recalled the situation just now. It was very likely that the martial soul of the axe was caused by some unstable factors. It was a pity that Bibi Dong didn't stop at the last moment. Fortunately, those children left early. If they saw this scene, I don't know how sad they would be. Possessie felt that she was a little selfish. She did not want to tell them about this. Deep sea. Several great white demon soul sharks carried Tang San and the others away from the sea god's island. Everyone was covered in a thin layer of bubbles to resist the water pressure around them. The 9 of them were silent. The atmosphere was a little tense. Because they were in the deep sea, they could not see the scene on the surface. They did not know what had happened. The great white demon soul sharks were very fast. Without the harassment of the sea spirit beasts, it would not take them long to reach the coastal city. Sensing the stifling atmosphere, Bai Chenxiang, who was beside Ma Hongjun, spoke softly. So he's the Wang Feng you've been talking about. He must have been secretly helping us these past 2 years, right? As soon as he said those words, the oppressive atmosphere eased a little. It feels so magical, Shun Lingqi said in a low voice. This monster captain, the #1 enemy of the Martial Spirit Palace, has unknowingly become the White Pope Diff of the Martial Spirit Palace? My God, even those fantastic stories wouldn't dare to write something like this. Indeed, no one dared to write that. But that was the reality. It also happened to them. I think his experience in the Martial Spirit Palace should be very interesting. Bai Chenxiang pulled Ma Hongjuan's arm. Fatty, who is your captain after all? I really want to know what happened to him in the Martial Spirit Palace. Her soft words made Ma Hongjuan's tense heart relax a little. This was the good thing about girls. They could soothe a man's tense heart. I want to know too, but I don't have the chance now. Ma Hongjun forced a smile and said, but if you want to know the captain's story, I can tell you. Bai Chenxiang nodded and snuggled in Ma Hongjuan's arms. She was very obedient now. Now that I think about it, it feels so magical. Oscar held Shun Lingqi's hand. The person we met at the Shrek Academy must be the captain himself, right? At that time, that white-clothed pope acted so well that none of us noticed any flaws. So it turned out that Captain was acting as himself, and he was acting as himself. I reckon that when the Pope asked him to pretend to be Wang Feng and infiltrate our Shrek Academy, Captain was also a little confused. Ning Rongrong snorted softly when she heard this. but she was a little happy in her heart. After all, those words of love that she said back then were said to him and not to anyone else. Now that you mention it, when we were in the Great Stardow Forest, Wang Feng suddenly appeared and defeated the netherworld Douluo of the Martial Spirit Palace. Dai Mubai also recalled and said, I was wondering how it could be so coincidental. He just happened to appear. If he was the White Pope Tiff, he could have arrived in time. Now that everyone recalled the bits and pieces of the past few years, the more they thought about it, the more shocked they were. Some of the key points could be said to be extremely wonderful. They didn't know how many crises were resolved at the critical moment. But being a spy in a martial spirit palace was like stepping on a tightrope with a bottomless abyss below. The slightest carelessness would devour all of them. But Wang Feng was able to do this, which was a real miracle. How did Brother Feng make the BB Don trust him so much? This was the most incredible thing for Tang San. What kind of person was the Pope? Did he want to gain her trust? Tang San thought it was too amazing. If he wanted to know the answer to these questions, he would have to ask Wang Feng himself. Captain has been lurking in the Martial Spirit Palace for so long. The Pope should be furious, right? Ma Hongjun pinched his chin. If it were me, I would definitely be furious. However, when we were pulled into that damn place, did Captain reach an agreement with the Pope? Then they didn't reach an agreement, so they fought? In the end, the BB Don said that he, Wang Feng, was nothing. Did he want to defeat her? What choice did he have? I guess the BB Don took a fancy to Captain and wanted to keep him. Tang San pondered. Captain was able to enter the Martial Spirit Palace, so he obviously did a lot of things. Otherwise, it would be impossible to gain the Bibidon's trust. That BB Don is an ambitious person with great talent and bold vision. I think he still wanted to retain and recruit Brother Feng, but I guess the negotiation fell through. So, Fatty, the BB Don can become the Pope and control the Martial Spirit Palace for so many years. It's not that simple. He didn't explode in anger like you think. Ma Hongjun scratched his head. After they talked for a while, the suppressed anger reduced a lot. At this moment, Zhu Zhuqing, who had been silent, suddenly let out a painful cry. She suddenly clutched her chest and curled up into a ball. In an instant, everyone was shocked. Zhuqing, what's wrong with you? Ning Rongrong, who was next to Zhu Zhuqing, hurriedly asked. Several great white sharks with demon souls also approached. I don't know. Zhu Zhuqing's forehead was full of sweat, and she just murmured, It's just that my heart hurts so much. Ding. Ding, congratulations to the host for punching in the Sea God's Island and not dying. Reward obtained, Million-Year Soul Ring. The Soul Ring will appear in the Douluo world in the form of a soul beast. Reward obtained, the first half of the secret word Swordsman. External reward obtained. The age of all soul rings increased by 40,000 years. Next punching location, the final battle of the Martial Spirit Empire. There are additional rewards. Hope the host can survive. You can start the second chapter, Becoming a God. Chapter 842. Sea God's Second Trial. Guarding the Sea God's Island. Perfectly passed. All soul ring years increased by 10,000 years. The heir of the Sea God, Tang San, did not die, obtained a 10,000-year increase. Soul power level increased by 1 level. Reached the upper limit stored in the body. In the deep sea, a weak light emitted a soft light. Small fish of strange shapes surrounded the center of this light, like moths attracted by candle flame, circling around the center of this light. After an unknown period of time, suddenly, this light trembled slightly. A tremor came from the water. The surrounding small fishes were like startled birds in the forest, scattering in all directions. The light gradually weakened and finally converged into a fist-sized light, but did not disappear. Only then did it reveal that this was actually a human body, and the position of the light was on the chest. The strange thing was that there was a palm-sized hole in the chest, and the left side of the chest seemed to be gone. What was even stranger was that the ray of light was right in the middle of the cave. In the center of the light was a tear-like crystal. Although the heart was gone, this person was really Wang Feng, and the crystal was naturally the meteoric tear. At this moment, the meteoric tear emitted a faint light, and the light seemed to form threads, forming a dense light net, connecting the flesh and blood around the heart. The heart was gone, and only the meteoric tear remained at this moment. A purplish-black aura lingered on the outside of the light, as if it was corroding and devouring this body. Suddenly, Wang Feng woke up in endless pain. Although he woke up, his eyes did not open, but his consciousness. With consciousness, he naturally had feelings. His whole body seemed to have been scraped by countless blades. That kind of extreme pain made Wang Feng want to curse at this moment. I'm dead. In Wang Feng's sea of consciousness, a pool of spiritual power was incomparably calm. He knew that this was the spiritual power he broke through in the battle just now. From a vast sea, it became this pool of water. However, it looked extremely viscous, like slurry or jelly. This meant that his spiritual power had been compressed to a limit. If it continued to be compressed, all of his spiritual power would slowly condense. In the end, it would form a real solid. Wang Feng did not know what a solid spiritual power meant. Wang Feng only knew that he was in a very bad situation. His heart had really been pierced through. Blood was everywhere, and the bones of his chest were all shattered. One could imagine how powerful a demigod was. The purple-black beam was extremely corrosive. It corroded Wang Feng's vitality and body. If Wang Feng's dustless glass body had not been cleansed by the chaotic divine light, he would have disappeared completely in that instant. He couldn't even protect the meteor stream. Thinking about it carefully, Wang Feng also felt somewhat lucky. Why did these people like to attack the heart? Could it be that he knew that I had the meteoric tear in my heart and couldn't be killed? If you hit my head, I might be dead. But even if he didn't die, because his heart was gone, the meteoric tear could only act as a drive. This was because the meteoric tear had directly fused into his heart. The heart became the carrier of the meteoric tear. Without a carrier, the effect of the meteoric tear would be greatly reduced. However, it was not difficult for Wang Feng to reconstruct his heart. All he had to do was use the golden lotus. In addition, his body had a strong self-healing ability. Now that he was able to wake up, it was all because of the flowing energy of the meteoric tear. The empty heart and the surrounding flesh were barely connected. This should be less than 1,000 meters deep in the sea. The pressure was not strong for Wang Feng. Wang Feng could only pray that there were no strong sea spirit beasts around. His body was extremely empty now. One had to know that when he was hit by the Rakshasa Deathlight, he was already in a very weak state. He had lost more than half of his blood essence. GG. But in the end, the fatal blow from the BB Dawn still made Wang Feng feel helpless. Because it was the first time that the Pangu Axe's blood explosion attack appeared. Maybe it was related to his strength, so the Pangu Axe absorbed his blood essence crazily. Or it could be said that his blood essence was too strong now. That was why he was qualified to be absorbed by the Pangu Axe. Although he used the Pangu Axe in the past, he did not let the Pangu Axe absorb his blood. Wang Feng guessed that this might be because after being cleansed by the chaotic divine light, his potential had been unlocked. These factors caused the Pangu Axe to absorb his blood, which led to the previous situation. The Pangu Axe martial soul was also powerful. It did not absorb the blood of trash. He almost sucked himself dry with just one breath. At that time, he was unable to control himself. It must have made the BB Dawn think that he wanted to kill her at all costs. Then it made her angrier and more desperate. That was why she thought of perishing together with him. Because when Wang Feng was blown away, he also saw the dull expression of the BB Dawn. Obviously, she did not know about his situation. How to say? Wang Feng did not know what to say. He could only say, everything was destined. Destined my ass. In that situation, he still took a fatal blow from the BB Dawn. That was not an ordinary attack. It was an attack full of the Bibidon's anger and determination. Although it was not a powerful attack in the Rakshasa god's inheritance, it was still a divine skill. Under such emotions, the power was even stronger than the Rakshasa demon sickle. Under that kind of attack, he was in an extremely weak state, Logically speaking, it was the meteoric tear. If it was something else, he would definitely die. But even with the meteoric tear, Wang Feng felt that his body was extremely weak at this moment. Blood. Too much blood had been absorbed by the Pangu axe. A normal person would die after losing 1/3 of his blood. It was not only 1/3 of his blood. He was afraid that 90% of his blood had been absorbed by the Pangu axe. He relied on his strong body to survive. Given a certain amount of time, Wang Feng could still recover. But now, after suffering that blow, Wang Feng felt that his body was weak at this moment. He only relied on the meteoric tear to hang on. Wait, did I forget something? Just now, I seem to remember something in my mind. Wang Feng was shocked in his sea of consciousness. Did I punch the card? He suddenly recalled that the sound of punching the card just now slowly reverberated in Wang Feng's mind. 1,000,000-year soul ring. Wait, the system is quite considerate. Why didn't you give it to me directly? After perceiving the content of the punch card, Wang Fengxin heaved a sigh of relief. 1,000,000-year soul ring. This meant that his level 90 was guaranteed. However, the system did not give it to him. It was probably considering his current situation. It was impossible to absorb it. Chapter 843. Not to mention a 1,000,000-year soul ring. Even a 10,000-year soul ring could fill up Wang Feng's current fragile state by 30%. He would probably die before he could finish absorbing the energy. A 1,000,000-year soul ring. This meant that it was on the same level as the deep-sea demon whale. However, it was presented in the form of soul beast. Wang Feng pondered, does the system mean that I have to kill it myself? To find a 1,000,000-year soul beast that belongs to me? Although it wasn't as good as directly obtaining it before, it was useless for Wang Feng to obtain it now. Wang Feng estimated that even if it was a God-bestowed soul ring, it wouldn't allow him to absorb a 1,000,000-year soul ring. It was very simple, because a God-bestowed soul ring was a power bestowed by the sea god, and a 100-year soul ring meant that the soul beast became a god. Could the sea god create a god out of thin air for him to absorb? It was estimated that Wang Feng absorbed a god-bestowed soul ring for 500,000 years, which made the sea god bleed a lot. Like the one Tang Sin absorbed before, it was at most 100,000 years, which was nothing to the sea god. Although the possessee didn't say it, there was definitely a limit to the age of this god-bestowed soul ring. But after level 90, Wang Feng estimated that it would be the end. The godhood chapter mentioned by the system was probably to let him embark on the road to godhood. Wang Feng knew that it was far from easy for him to become a god. No matter which soul ring it was, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that it was surpassing God. Or he could create his own divine position. There should be no divine position for him to inherit in the Douluo divine world. To put it bluntly, Wang Feng didn't want it. It was better to create it himself. But was it so easy to create it? Not easy. Wang Feng didn't think so much. The last checkpoint should be the final chapter of the Douluo world. Wang Feng estimated that he would be able to reach rank 90, find that 1,000,000-year soul beast, kill it, and absorb it. That would be about it. As for the rest, let's see what the system said. Godhood chapter. These 3 words were enough to explain everything. However, what made Wang Feng most gratified was that the system probably thought that the reward given was not good enough. After all, he still had to kill the 1,000,000-year soul beast himself. So it gave another reward. Esoteric word. This thing could be said to be what Wang Feng needed the most now. Why? People in the Douluo world didn't know this thing. But Wang Feng knew. This was one of the heaven-shrouding 9 secrets. This secret technique was a supreme healing technique, a supreme recovery divine technique. It was said that a single drop of blood could restore one to the most perfect state. It could be said to be an undying and indestructible secret technique. With Wang Feng's current injuries, even the meteoric tear would not be able to save him in a short time. Because of the severe loss of blood, his blood was no ordinary blood. It was extremely pure blood that contained boundless energy. Otherwise, it would not have been absorbed by the Pangu axe and unleashed such powerful energy. The meteoric tear could only protect his heart from dying. If he wanted to recover, it would take a long time. During this period of time, Wang Feng found it very difficult to move. If a slightly stronger soul beast appeared in this sea, he would be able to laugh and type GG. However, with this secret technique, if Wang Feng could comprehend it on his own, he didn't need to comprehend too much. Even if he only comprehended a part of it, he didn't need to fully recover with a single drop of blood. He only needed to speed up his recovery. Due to the lack of blood, Wang Feng's perception of his body was greatly reduced. Only the hole in his heart had a warm current, giving Wang Feng a sense of touch. The esoteric word began to appear in Wang Feng's sea of consciousness. What appeared in Wang Feng's sea of consciousness was a special page of a golden and blood-red scripture. The scripture seemed to be made of a special material. It was similar to the ancient wood that appeared when the esoteric word appeared. It was also made of a special material. When Wang Feng controlled the viscous spirit to enter this ancient and mysterious page of the scripture, his mind exploded with a bang. His spiritual power seemed to be pulled into an empty world. There were only lines of burning inscriptions that allowed Wang Feng's spiritual power to merge into them like chains. Esoteric word, the secret of longevity. His spiritual power comprehended the contents of this page of scripture. Following that, this page of scripture began to burn. When the esoteric word was cultivated to the extreme, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that one could live forever. If it was in the past, Wang Feng would not have been able to comprehend this esoteric word. When he was trying to comprehend the esoteric word, he had to travel around the continent for half a year to observe the changes in the world and comprehend the state of mind. Only then was he able to comprehend half of the esoteric word. But the current Wang Feng was far from the past. He could even comprehend the esoteric word and had been cleansed by the chaotic divine light. His spiritual power and soul had reached a whole new level. It was only half a step to the esoteric word. It wasn't difficult to comprehend it. After an unknown period of time, the light around Wang Feng's body began to be enshrouded with extraordinary mysteries. Rays of bright light began to emit from Wang Feng's remaining blood. Because of the loss of blood, Wang Feng's body looked like a bag of bones. The originally crystal-clear jade bones and skin had lost their luster. Only the area around the meteoric tear and his brain had traces of blood flowing. The rest of his body was like an ancient bone. But at this time, a bright light began to bloom from Wang Feng's blood. That was the aura of life. It was as if the aura of life was endlessly growing. It was weak. At this moment, Wang Feng had already landed in a sea of mud. There were all kinds of seaweed around him. In this aura of life, the life around him seemed to have come alive. The moment this aura of life appeared, Wang Feng recovered a little of his soul power. His body also seemed to have some strength. He had already comprehended part of the esoteric word, Shadaomist. Without hesitation, although he didn't know how many days had passed, Wang Feng immediately used his Shadaomist soul skill to conceal his aura. He didn't want to be discovered and eaten by other soul beasts when he was so weak. If that happened, the losses would outweigh the gains. Not long after Wang Feng used his Shadaomist soul skill, a silhouette flitted across the sky. On the surface of the sea, whoosh, a figure rushed out from the sea. Qian Rinchue's wings flashed. A layer of faint golden light enveloped his body. He used his immense spiritual power to sense his surroundings. Impossible, he's around here. It's been 3 days. How can I not sense any aura at all? Qian Rinchue looked around. His face was extremely pale. How could he die like this? I don't believe. How big was the sea? Wang Feng was instantly sent flying a few thousand meters away. He fell into the sea and drifted for an unknown distance. Although Qian Rinchue caught up in time, his spiritual power couldn't sense the entire sea. His spiritual power wasn't strong enough to do so. You're so strong. How could you die like this? Qian Rinchue gritted his teeth. She didn't just search in midair. She also sank to the bottom of the sea. But the deeper the sea, the smaller the range of her senses. The sea was boundless. How could she sense everything? Chapter 844. Qian Rinxue recalled the terrifying light that Bibidon had unleashed and felt a little hopeless. She knew that the light contained Bibidon's fury. Even she might not have been able to withstand it. What about Wang Feng, who was extremely weak? Or was he struck in the heart and shattered? Even if it was her, she wouldn't be able to survive. In this world, there was no one who could survive under that kind of situation. Qian Rinxue became even more dazed as she thought about it. At this moment, several figures flew over from afar. They were the two Douluo, Guiju, and the thorny pufferfish Douluo. Young master. The chrysanthemum Douluo looked at Qian Rinxue carefully. Qian Rinxue was like a volcano that was about to erupt. He did not dare to provoke him. Did Bibidon send you? Qian Rinxue looked at them coldly. He wanted to go back. If they were in the Pope's palace, it would be disrespectful to call Bibidon by his name. However, the two Douluo acted as if they did not hear him. That's not it. The thorny pufferfish Douluo replied softly. The Pope wants the three of us to accompany you to find Lord Pope Tiff. The thorny pufferfish Douluo paused. Although Wang Feng's identity had been exposed, they still addressed him as Lord Pope Tiff. Perhaps it had become a habit and a form of respect. Qian Rinxue laughed coldly and remained silent. Find him, young master. Until you don't want to, the thorny pufferfish Douluo continued. In the sea, he was the only titled Douluo in the martial spirit hall who could fight in the sea. He was also very agile in the sea. Qian Rinxue was even angrier when he heard this. Recruit him? I think you just think that he has a chance to be used, right? Qian Rinxue said sarcastically. Now that he's gone, it's meaningless for you to come. That's true. Even I was sent to the Heaven Do Palace to be a spy. What emotions could she possibly have? Qian Rinxue sneered in his heart. Hatred spread in his heart, but he only felt extremely tired. There's no need to look for it. Qian Rinxue glanced at the three of them and said calmly, We've searched everywhere. The three of them fell silent. His Holiness the Pope did not have much hope when he sent them here. No one knew better than His Holiness the power of that attack, because the closest person to Pope Tiff at that time was the Pope. His Holiness the Pope has returned to the Alliance's headquarters. The Ju Douluo continued. Also, get the High Priest to take the Holy Maiden back to the coastal cities and set up a defensive line there. If Tang San and the others try to escape from the Sea God's Island, get the Holy Maiden to send people to capture them. His Highness the Pope is certain that Tang San and his men must have sneaked out of the Sea God's Island a few days ago during the battle. Later, the three of us and the young master will need to go and negotiate with the Holy Maiden. If we discover her, we will immediately pursue her. We must capture Tang San. Hearing this, Qian Rinxue was silent for a moment. What a good Bibidon. She could still think of this at such a time. Does she not feel sad at all? Qian Rinxue felt that it was unbelievable. Wang Wu helped her so much. Now, the Martial Spirit Alliance was said to be the master of the continent and was supported by countless soul masters. This situation could be said to be indirectly caused by Wang Wu. It was also the reason why she could step into the demigod realm so quickly, but she seemed to be silent when people died. She even had the mood to calculate other things. Qian Rinxue felt that she could not be such a person. She hated this kind of woman. Thinking of this, Qian Rinxue felt a surge of anger in her heart. I want to become a god. Wang Feng. Qian Rinxue looked at the endless distance, her eyes burning with anger and a trace of madness. Above the sea, thousands of meters away from Oceanic City, great white demon soul sharks had already jumped out of the sea and floated on the surface. Zhuqing, are you okay? It had been a few days since they left the Sea God's Island. With the great white demon soul sharks carrying them, their speed could be said to be extremely fast. It had taken him almost a month to find the Sea God's Island. But now, in just a few days, they were very close to the continent. Ning Rongrong asked Zhu Zhuqing while riding on the great white demon soul sharks. Not long after they left that day, Zhu Zhuqing's heart was in a state of pain and twitching. Even she did not know the reason. It was very strange. But these few days, it was much better. I'm okay. Zhu Zhuqing touched her chest, but a trace of deep worry flashed in the depths of her eyes. Vaguely, she had an ominous premonition. All this time, the position in her heart had been connected to Wang Feng in some mysterious way, although it was very faint. But just as she was pressing on the sky, the mysterious crystal in her heart that looked like a teardrop seemed to be flying out, which caused the intense pain. But after that day, the pain slowly decreased, and it only recovered in the past 2 days. But what made Zhu Zhuqing uneasy was that the feeling between them had become fainter. Even today, it had disappeared. Zhu Zhuqing did not know what this meant, but it was definitely not good. Wang Feng was definitely in danger. She did not know what kind of treasure this special teardrop crystal he gave her was, but it would not have such a strange reaction. When they were returning halfway, Zhu Zhuqing even wanted to return to the sea god's island to check on the situation. But in her heart, she kept telling herself that Wang Feng would be fine. Last time, he was able to turn the situation into a safe place. And in the end, he became even stronger. It was the same now. If she went, it would be more troublesome. If the martial spirit palace found her, it would be even more troublesome. Captain has already escaped from the sea god's island, right? Is he waiting for us on the continent? Ma Hongjun chuckled. That's for sure. Oscar agreed. When I used the mirror intestine to duplicate Captain's martial spirit, I could barely duplicate the first 4 forms. I still couldn't bear it, and I couldn't even duplicate his spear. But Captain's 4th soul skill is a super long-distance teleportation soul skill. It can be said to be the best soul skill for escaping. I reckon that even a golden body type soul skill would not be as good as this. He can leave the battlefield in an instant. Oscar's words reassured everyone once again. At that time, I could only use part of my soul skill. With Captain's strength, teleporting over 10,000 meters is not impossible. Oscar continued. Everyone nodded. Brother Feng, as long as Bibidon's strength is depleted, the martial spirit palace will not dare to attack the sea god's island. Tang San's face eased a little. We don't have to worry about this. Thousand Dao Flow and BB Don have both been depleted. Qianren Xue is no match for senior possessee on the sea god's mountain. Once they enter the sea god's island, the martial spirit palace's soul masters won't be able to take advantage. Chapter 845. What Tang San said was also the reason why BB Don retreated. At this moment, Little White, who was under Tang San's feet, suddenly said, Master, there seem to be many soul masters searching the nearby sea area. The clansmen who are scouting ahead have reported back to us. We might have been discovered. Hearing this, Tang San was stunned. Soul masters? What soul masters? They were stunned. It should be. Little White hesitated for a moment. They are from a martial spirit palace. Hearing this, everyone was stunned. Their speed was extremely fast. After all, they were the great white demon shark. Even if the people from the martial spirit palace knew that they had escaped, they couldn't have returned from the sea god's island so quickly and set up a defense line in the coastal sea area. Even if they sent a titled Douluo to return from the sea god's island in advance, they couldn't have been faster than them. Either they had set up a defense line in advance, or BB Don had guessed that they had escaped and returned to the coastal city before them. Send the Thousand Dao School to quickly return to the coastal city and set up a defense line. The Thousand Dao School was known as the King of the Sky. In terms of strength and speed, there might be 5 people in the sky who could compete with him, including the great white demon shark. Thinking of this, everyone felt a chill in their hearts. This BB Don is too ruthless. He actually calculated to this extent. Ma Hongjun was instantly furious. But looking at it from another angle, Tang San pondered. It's very likely that Brother Feng has already won, which caused BB Don to not attack the Sea God's Island and return to the mainland in advance. Otherwise, they should be attacking the Sea God's Island now. Everyone nodded slightly. It made sense. Then what should we do now? If the Thousand Dao School is really here, we can't beat them. Dai Mubai looked at the looming vast sea city in the distance. He could vaguely see many ships on the sea. In midair, there were teams of soul masters flying in the sky, patrolling the sea. Even if he couldn't see clearly, Dai Mubai could guess that they were from the martial spirit palace. Don't worry, Tang San thought. We could go ashore at another place. Even if we were discovered, he might not be here. With the identity of the Thousand Dao stream, he might not necessarily be in the city. The coastline is so long. If it really doesn't work, we don't have to disembark at Vasi City. We could just change the coastline. If there are soul masters chasing after us, they won't be our match. By the time the Thousand Dao flow finds out, we will already be ashore. Everyone get ready. Little Ao, Ling Chi, make more mushrooms and white beer later. It should be useful later. Oscar and Shun Lingchi nodded. The closer they got to the shore, the shallower the seabed became. For the great white demon soul shark, it was not suitable for fighting. Even if he were to sink to the bottom of the ocean, he would only be several dozen meters deep. Even with the vast sea cosmic shroud, it would still be very difficult for him to escape detection. Because even if he couldn't sense it, he could also see it. It wouldn't be difficult for a high-grade soul master to see through several dozen meters of the ocean floor. Not good. There's a bunch of soul cultivators coming our way. Xiaobai, you guys go back first. You guys are too big. If a tidal Douluo from the Martial Soul Hall comes, we'll be in even more trouble. Tang Sen said in a deep voice, "Eat the mushroom intestines and rush over." Xiaobai nodded. The great white demon soul shark was 10 to 20 meters long in the East Continent. It was simply a huge monster in the sea. It was too easy to see it. The group flew up one after another. In front of them, there was a group of people. Tang San was the strongest. He immediately sensed a very familiar aura. It seems to be an acquaintance, very far away. Hulaina flew in mid-air expressionlessly. Behind her, there was a group of soul masters from the Martial Soul Hall. Their auras were extremely powerful, and their strength was above rank 60. There were a total of 50 people. There were more than 10 soul Douluo who were above rank 80. Halfway through, Hulaina suddenly said, "All of you can go back. I'll go alone." Hearing this, many soul masters behind her were stunned. One of them, a man in full armor, said respectfully, "Your Highness, there's news that Tang San and the others have been found. It's too dangerous for you to go alone. Let's go together." Hulaina waved her hand impatiently. "I've been on the Sea God's Island for more than 2 years. How can I not be familiar with Tang San and the others? They must have found a mistake. I think it should be the ship of the Martial Soul Hall, led by my brother and the others. They have returned from the Sea God's Island. I'll go alone, but no buts. Don't my orders carry out? Besides, Tang San is such a smart person. How can he expose his traces? It's just to confuse you. Maybe he's in another location now. Hurry up and go to the coastal area." After Hulaina finished speaking, she rushed out first. "Don't follow me. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." Hearing this, the 50 soul masters behind her looked at each other and quickly returned. Before His Majesty the Pope went out to sea, he sent the Saintess to guard the island again in case His Majesty the Pope failed to catch Tang San and the others on the Sea God's Island and let them escape. They would wait here for them to return to the mainland and capture them in one fell swoop. A day ago, the High Priest, Dalu, returned one step ahead and gave an order. He asked them to quickly strengthen the defense and listen to the Saintess' order to capture Tang San, who escaped from the Sea God's Island. However, since Her Majesty the Saintess had given the order, they naturally could not disobey. Besides, what the Saintess said was somewhat reasonable. The group quickly returned. Not long after they left, Hulaina's body trembled, and she suddenly burst into tears. She returned with Dalu, because Bibi Don and Dalu, as the two top high-level figures, would not do such a thing in the coastal area. Only the Saintess could be responsible for it. She was well aware of what had happened that day. It was just that she was on the ship and did not watch the battle closely. But she also knew the specific situation. At that time, when she saw Wang Wu's heart being pierced by Bibi Don, her heart was almost broken and she almost fainted. The key was that she could not show it. She was not Xian Rinxue, who could expose her emotions so willfully. She even scolded the Pope in front of him. If she dared to do so, BB Dawn would slap her backhand. She might even be crippled. That kind of painful emotion could only be hidden in the bottom of her heart. It only burst out at this moment when she was alone. How could he die? Tears fell from Hulaina's cheeks like a broken string. After a while, Hulaina reluctantly wiped away her tears and flew forward. In just a moment, she saw Tang San and the others. Tang San and the others also saw Hulaina. For a moment, they were stunned and felt extreme danger in their hearts. Even the saintess of the martial spirit palace was here. Hulaina looked at Tang San and the others and said expressionlessly, "Don't worry, it's only me. I won't call for others. The coastline here is all blocked. If you want to enter the mainland, there's only one place. I'll take you there. Otherwise, it will be difficult for you to go ashore, because several titled Douluo have returned from the sea god's island." Hearing this, the 9 people were all stunned. P.S. In a Chapter 10, please count votes. Chapter 846. The 9 people looked at Hulaina and didn't know what to say for a while. What's going on? Is she pretending? Or has the Holy Lady of the Martial Spirit Palace been replaced? Tang San was also a little confused. Hulaina was the Holy Lady of the Martial Spirit Palace and Bibidon's disciple. Why would she help them? There were a lot of defensive lines set up by the Martial Spirit Palace here. There was no need to deliberately pretend to lure them, and it was obvious that they had been discovered. She could just come and catch them directly, and then it would definitely attract the attention of more soul masters. It would be difficult for them not to alarm the whole defensive line. At this moment, Tang San sensed that the soul masters behind Hulaina seemed to have dispersed. This caused even Tang San to be confused, let alone the others. "You're kind enough to help us?" Ning Rongrong looked at Hulaina vigilantly. Her delicate face was so charming that men couldn't help but be impulsive. Now her eyes were still red and seductive. She remembered, this Holy Lady of the Martial Spirit Palace was very close to Pope Tif Wang Wu. Now that Wang Feng was Wang Wu, didn't that mean Hulaina? Thinking of this, Ning Rongrong was even more vigilant in her eyes. She held Zhu Zhuqing's arm tightly. "Help you?" Hulaina sneered. "I'm not related to you. Why would I help you?" "Forget it. I've already told you. Soon, Qianren Xue will bring at least 3 titled Douluo to inspect the situation. If you think you can escape from their pursuit, then do as you please." The defensive line of the Martial Spirit Palace was set up by BB Dawn long ago. Naturally, it would be difficult to sneak through without being noticed. Hearing this, the 9 people frowned, but they vaguely thought of something. Did Wang Feng ask you to do this? At this moment, Zhu Zhuqing looked at Hulaina and suddenly asked. Tang San also stared at Hulaina. He also thought of this possibility. But if so, Brother Feng was too strong, right? He even instigated the Holy Lady of the Martial Spirit Palace to defect? "I don't know any Wang Feng," Hulaina said expressionlessly. "I only know Pope Tif Wang Wu. That's all I have to say. It's up to you whether you want to follow me or not. I'm only responsible for leading the way." Then, Hulaina took out several sets of clothes that soul masters of the Martial Spirit Palace wore. "Here are the clothes." He turned around and flew in another direction. However, Hulaina's denial made everyone understand a little more. It must be related to Wang Feng. "Change your clothes, conceal your aura, and follow them," Tang San said in a deep voice. The others nodded in agreement. He changed into the clothes of a soul master of the Martial Spirit Palace. Then, Tang San took out the vast sea cosmic shroud and covered everyone's aura. As he followed Hulaina, he saw her dismissing the patrolling soul cultivators from afar. Sure enough, it was easier to get things done when there were people on the inside. In just a moment, Tang San and the others followed Hulaina through the path that extended to the coast. Finally, Hulaina brought the 3 of them to a shore. Next, from here, it will take about 15 days to reach Heaven-Do City. With your speed, you can get there in a few days. Hulaina stood on the shore and continued. Heaven-Do City is the place where the Alliance has the weakest control. If you go to other places, you will definitely be discovered. Alliance? What the hell is the alliance? The 9 of them were stunned. They knew that great changes must have happened in less than 3 years, but it was not good to ask too much at this time. When they returned to Heaven Do City, they would naturally know the situation. Then the 9 of us will thank you here. Tang Sen cupped his fists at Hulaina. Although I don't know why you helped us, we will remember this kindness in our hearts. The others nodded in agreement. Without Hulaina, they would not have been able to pass through the defense line so easily. Even if they passed through, they would probably face unknown pursuit. If that Qianren Xue really chased them, none of them would be able to escape. Hulaina was silent. You guys go before anyone notices. Hulaina looked at them and was about to turn around and leave. At this moment, Zhu Zhuqing suddenly asked, Wang Feng, Wang Wu, how is he now? Hulaina was slightly taken aback, and a smile appeared on her face. However, when they saw this smile, their hearts skipped a beat. Something happened. A breath of air began to choke in the hearts of the group. Wang Wu should have left Sea God's Island, right? Ning Rongrong's tone became cautious, as if she was afraid of knowing the truth, but also very eager to know. Yes, he left. Hulaina nodded and said expressionlessly. Hearing this, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. I knew it. Even the BB Dawn can't stop Captain. Ma Hongjun laughed out loud. What a joke. How can he stop that kind of teleportation soul skill? Oscar chuckled. I guess that BB Dawn is really angry this time. He couldn't persuade him to stay, and Captain left in the end. Is there any place in this world that Wang Feng can't go? Dai Mubai rubbed his chin. He can come and go as if there's no one around. Everyone laughed. Ning Rongrong also revealed a smile on her face. She could finally let go of the worries she had for the past few days. Zhu Zhuqing pursed her lips. Is he really gone? At this moment, Hulaina muttered, he left. He has left this world forever. You guys, take care of yourselves. After saying this, Hulaina suddenly sobbed and flew into the distance. A teardrop floated over and landed on Ning Rongrong's dazed face. That cold feeling seemed to have spread through her cheeks and spread to her entire body, at the bottom of the endless sea. Dazzling light continued to flash from Wang Feng's body. Strands of transparent blood flowed through Wang Feng's body, and every time it flowed, it would become a little stronger. Finally, it gathered at the empty spot and wrapped around the meteoric tear like a blood flower, beating like a heart. Following this, the strands of blood grew stronger again. Abundant energy flowed out from the meteoric tear, and under the special circulation method of the blood gradually became purer and more dazzling. The bright blood exuded a ruby-like luster. Every time the lustrous blood flowed through Wang Feng's skinny body, it would spring up like a spring. It was as if the spring rain had poured down on the dry land, bringing with it vigorous vitality. Quickly, every bone in Wang Feng's body became radiant, and his skin started to emit a crystal-like glow. Wang Feng closed his eyes and comprehended the esoteric word. He had to admit that the esoteric word was very good. After comprehending a little and cultivating, Wang Feng felt that his recovery speed had increased by more than one level. End of chapter. Chapter 847. Most importantly, his blood started to condense, form, and strengthen rapidly after he started cultivating. Coupled with the energy from the meteoric tear, his blood started to strengthen and recover. With blood circulating throughout his body, Wang Feng's body started to regain its sense of touch. The ferocious mouth on his heart started to itch. The flesh on his chest started to grow again. Compared to the meteoric tear, Wang Feng was astonished by its recovery speed. With his current state and body condition, he was able to recover so quickly. Wang Feng felt that he would not die in the future. After an unknown period of time, it could be a few days or more than 10 days, Wang Feng finally felt the existence of soul power. In the next moment, Wang Feng opened his eyes. He had been looking inside himself and finally saw the scene in front of him, the blue sea. Because his body was glowing, he could still see the situation around him. Fortunately, Wang Feng had activated his Misty Shadow Soul skill and did not attract any strong aquatic soul beasts. Golden Lotus. Wang Feng looked at his chest. The meteoric tear was still glowing faintly. Even the flesh around it had grown back. In the center, there was a model of a heart made from blood. The half-secret word allowed Wang Feng to recover quickly. Wang Fengxin heaved a sigh of relief. He felt that his body was still weak. His heart had not been completely rebuilt, so it was still weak. Without thinking much, Wang Feng activated the Golden Lotus and urged it to speed up his recovery. Finally, under the effects of the half-secret word, the Golden Lotus and the meteoric tear, Wang Feng closed his eyes and felt the pain in his heart. He knew that his heart was starting to be rebuilt. The model of the heart made from blood seemed to be adding bricks and tiles. A faint layer of soul power barrier isolated Wang Feng from the surrounding seawater. As his heart was being rebuilt, the numbness and itchiness made Wang Feng feel very comfortable. He could not help but cry out. Boundless life energy surged out from the meteoric tear. Wang Feng was surprised to find that after cultivating the half-secret word, he could activate the energy in the meteoric tear more effectively. This made Wang Feng feel a little strange. Previously, the meteoric tear was like a passive, beautiful girl. It would only give you a little sweetness when you were thirsty. But now, the meteoric tear was like an active and seductive woman. With a gentle tease, it could give you a sweet taste. The only benefit was that it could increase Wang Feng's soul power rank even faster. This was a huge benefit for Wang Fengla. After level 80, Wang Feng had a premonition that cultivating to level 90 would be a long process. But even so, the development of the meteoric tear was still too small. It still contained a special law of life. That thing was the most precious thing, but Wang Feng couldn't comprehend it. He had tried to use his psychic power to enter the meteoric tear, hoping to probe the magical laws of life it contained. Unfortunately, even with his spiritual energy, it was like a clay ox entering the sea. There was no reaction at all. It could only be said that Wang Feng was still too weak. Or perhaps the meteoric tear was not completely pieced together to form a whole piece. Perhaps when my mental energy becomes truly solid, I'll be qualified to enter the meteoric tear and sense some of the laws of life. Wang Feng pondered. In the world of star transformation, generally, comprehending this law was a trace of it. It seemed to take thousands of years, tens of thousands of years. His thoughts on the meteoric tear stopped here for the time being. I'll think about it again when my mental energy condenses into a true, solid state. After I recover my state, I might go to the extreme north and let Odonosukis and the rest find out where that million-year soul beast is. Wang Feng thought, after all, once a million-year soul beast is born, it will definitely not be simple. It's easy to find it among soul beasts. But Wang Feng thought for a while. With his current strength, it seemed a little difficult to kill a million-year soul beast, unless Wang Feng cultivated the esoteric character to the large success stage. He would be able to use the Pangu Axe's blood burst attack at will while using the esoteric character to recover blood. Thinking of this, Wang Feng felt that it seemed a little shameless, because the Pangu Axe's blood burst attack was really deadly. When he was fighting with Bibidon previously, it was really a close call. He relied on his stronger mental energy to barely control it. If he were to become stronger, the Pangu Axe would definitely become stronger, and he might not be able to control it. Every time he used the blood burst attack, it was equivalent to suicide. It was no different from self-destruction. But if he had the esoteric character to recover blood, wouldn't it be like a perpetual motion machine? But to cultivate this secret technique to the large success stage, how long would it take? Wang Feng shook his head. Even now, Wang Feng had only comprehended the esoteric character to a small success stage. So it was just a thought. A true million-year soul beast would definitely not be much weaker than Bibidon. Or self-destructing and using the blood burst attack was somewhat possible. But this also meant that the danger would be greatly increased. Bibidon was still alright this time. It attacked the heart. If it directly attacked the head, The head did not have the meteoric tear, and his mental energy had not condensed into a solid state. Wang Feng's soul was not strong enough to survive after his head exploded. Even if he barely survived, without consciousness, he would not be able to cultivate the esoteric character. I need to plan properly. Otherwise, I will not be able to break through. Speaking of which, my sea god second exam did not give me a god-bestowed soul ring. It seems that the sea god really noticed the upper limit of my soul ring absorption. I have already reached 1,000,000 year. While thinking in his heart, he quickly reconstructed his heart. Thinking of this, Wang Feng curled his lips. Is it because I can't afford to play? The difficulty of his second exam was much harder than Ning Rongrong and the rest final exam. Ning Rongrong and the rest had 2 god-bestowed soul rings. If the sea god could not afford to play, Wang Feng could not do anything. He could not find trouble with him, right? That would be too arrogant. Wait until he reached level 90. At level 80, he could exchange blows with Bibidon, who was half a step into the god realm. Forcefully using the blood burst attack of the Pangu axe could suppress Bibidon. If it's self-destructed, it could even cause harm to his life. At level 90, he should be able to exchange blows with a true god. However, Wang Feng was not too sure about the strength of a true god. Perhaps there was a misjudgment. Moreover, Wang Feng did not intend to use the blood burst attack of the Pangu axe. At least before his mental energy reached a solid state and he could slightly control it. Or perhaps before he reached a higher level of the esoteric character, Wang Feng did not intend to use it. Just as Wang Feng was slowly recovering, he did not know what had happened to the continent at this time. In a chapter. Chapter 848. In the Great Star Doe Forest. As the largest soul beast forest on the continent, its vastness was greater than that of the 2 empires combined. There were countless core regions in the forest. At this moment, in one of the core regions, in a space shrouded in a hazy black fog, there was not a single trace of energy flow, as if it was a soul-sealing domain. A terrifying aura suddenly emerged from the center of this region. A crimson pillar of light suddenly rose from this position and shot straight into the clouds. It seemed to connect heaven and earth. The muffled, ancient voice resounded in this space. If someone was standing in the air at this moment, they would be able to hear it. There were many soul beasts in this region. They were of different sizes, but most of them were 10,000-year soul beasts. There was even the aura of a 100,000-year soul beast at the very front. There were so many 10,000-year and 100,000-year soul beasts in this unknown core region. If Wang Feng were here, he would be able to see a soul beast that he was very familiar with. It was a powerful soul beast with 9 heads and 6 arms and the body of a snake. This was because this soul beast was the same soul beast he had encountered when he was searching for the headless general after absorbing the 5-headed stellar dragon. At this moment, this soul beast was standing at the very front. Its 9 heads were facing the pillar of light in front of it, and it was roaring excitedly as if it were celebrating the birth of a king. The black pillar of light that caused heaven and earth to tremble gradually turned red, and then a faint reddish-gold color. The other soul beasts of all shapes and sizes began to roar even louder in response to the 9-headed snake soul beast call. After a short while, the reddish-gold light gradually disappeared. A figure slowly walked out from within the black fog. At the same time, in another lake in the Great Star Doe Forest, Deming's enormous body slowly rose from the lake, and Ming was grooming his fur at the edge of the lake. Almost at the same time, 4 pairs of huge eyes looked into the distance. Ming, did you feel that? Deming's voice was heavy. That's not an ordinary soul beast's aura. When those 200,000-year soul beasts suddenly attacked us, I felt that something was off. Deming was referring to the 5-headed star dragon and the headless general. That seems to be a soul beast that's much stronger than us. Don't tell me it's the boss of those 2 soul beasts. Ming gripped the staff beside him. In that case, the last time the 2 soul beasts had attacked them, they hadn't appeared out of nowhere. It was obvious that this soul beast was much stronger than the one before. And from the looks of it, things didn't look good. No matter what, We can't leave our homeland alone. A deep and low voice reverberated in the lake. Deep sea. Wang Feng, who had been recovering with his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes and looked into the distance. A strange feeling surged into his heart. Could it be that million-year soul beast? Wang Feng frowned slightly. It was a wonderful feeling. He originally thought that he would have to make a trip to the extreme north and ask Odanisukis and the others to help him find the million-year soul beast. But now, a strange feeling appeared in his heart. Maybe it's the feeling the system gave me that allowed me to find that million-year soul beast. Wang Feng had a rough idea, but then he thought of something. No, is this a warning from the anterior secret art? This inexplicable feeling was similar to the previous 2 times. After thinking for a long time, Wang Feng felt that it might have come from the anterior secret art and not from the system. If the system had given him a warning, it would have told him in his mind. What kind of danger is this? Who is it related to? Wang Feng looked in that direction. Although it's faint, it's so clear. The strength of a million-year soul beast was extremely dangerous for anyone who encountered it. If he cultivated the anterior secret art to a higher level, he should be able to predict more clearly. After thinking for a while, Wang Feng looked at his heart that was mostly recast. Wang Feng estimated that it would take at most a few days for his heart to be completely recast. And after recast, his heart would be even stronger. This was because his blood essence had been cleansed and became purer under the cultivation of the esoteric secret art. He had recovered more than half of his strength. By the time his heart was recast, Wang Feng had recovered to his peak state. But the strange thing was that although he had not fully recovered, Wang Feng felt that he was much stronger than before. After thinking about it for a while, Wang Feng realized that the soul ring reward had reached a limit. His first 3 soul rings had undergone huge changes. First of all, his 3rd soul ring had reached 100,000 years. To be precise, it was 120,000 years. His original 3rd soul ring was a 30,000-year thorny Xuanwu turtle. After checking in at the Rakshasa secret realm, his first 3 soul rings had increased by 20,000 years. After passing the sea god exam, his soul rings had increased by 15,000 years. After checking in at the sea god's island, all his soul rings had increased by 40,000 years. After the sea god's 2nd exam, all his soul rings had increased by 20,000 years. In total, they had increased to more than 120,000 years. His first soul ring was originally only 6,000 years, but after checking in twice, his soul ring had reached 10,000 years. After the subsequent check-ins, after the sea god's exam, it had just reached 100,000 years. His 2nd soul ring was a 10,000-year ice emperor lizard. After the additional increase, it had also reached 100,000 years. Only then did Wang Feng realize that his soul rings had unknowingly increased to 100,000 years. The main reason was that the sea god's island and the 2nd sea god exam had increased the age of his soul rings by too much. Wang Feng put on a long robe again from the soul tool. He let out a shrill cry, and his heart glowed. 7 soul rings on his body suddenly lit up. 7 red soul rings. Furthermore, the color gradually darkened. There was not much difference between the 1st and 2nd soul rings, but the 3rd and 4th soul rings gradually darkened, especially the 5th and 6th soul rings. These 2 were the ice dragon whale and the starry 5-headed dragon. The sea god's island and the sea god's exam rewards had increased all his soul rings. Of these 2 soul rings, the ice dragon whale was originally only 90,000 years, but the reward later increased by 20,000 years to 110,000 years. After the subsequent check-ins, the sea god's exam increased by 90,000 years and 5,000 years, making it more than 200,000 years. His 6th soul ring, the starry 5-headed dragon's soul ring, was even more than 200,000 years. Wang Feng was like a glowing arrow, shooting out from the bottom of the sea. His entire body was still shining brightly. If it weren't for his Shadowma's soul skill concealing most of his aura, with his current state, he would have attracted a lot of sea spirit beasts. Unknowingly, all my soul rings are red, although the first three have only reached 100,000 years. Wang Feng muttered to himself. End of this chapter. Chapter 849. The increase in soul rings placed an even greater burden on his body, but thankfully, it was given to him by the system or the sea god's test, so he could easily adapt to it. The improvements brought about by the all-red soul rings were quite significant in terms of soul skills. However, no second soul skill was born. Instead, he used it on his first soul skill, making it even more powerful. Perhaps this was the effect of the system's upgrade. There wasn't a second soul skill, but it was all used on one soul skill. For example, the soul-devouring blood wings had gained the ability to teleport after gaining a 20,000-year soul ring for the first time. In reality, it was more like a soul skill. However, it wasn't a 100,000-year soul skill, so it was still in the soul-devouring blood wings. This was why the soul-devouring blood wings didn't give birth to a second soul skill after they were upgraded to 100,000 years. Instead, they were strengthened. Similarly, the current situation was the same. A soul skill that already had many functions didn't give birth to a second soul skill. Instead, it strengthened the original soul skill. For example, the deified soul skill, the soul-devouring blood wings soul skill, and the thorny lotus soul skill. His second soul ring didn't give birth to any special soul skills either. It only strengthened the ice fire furious lotus. Even a transcendent Douluo wouldn't be able to withstand it if he used it now. If he used the ice flame fury lotus, any title Douluo below rank 99 would be severely injured. It was important to know that this wasn't a single target soul skill, but an area of effect soul skill. It was already ridiculous to have such strength. Moreover, its range could cover more than 3,000 meters. In terms of attack range and range, it was second only to the Netherism flying sword. The strength of a 100,000-year soul skill would increase by leaps and bounds. At the very least, he would be able to keep up with Wang Feng's other abilities. Because merely the Netherism flying sword was already formidable to the extreme under the effect of Wang Feng's formidable spiritual energy. He could even insta-kill a titled Douluo. It could be said that he could truly take someone's head from thousands of meters away. Even the deep-sea demonic whale could be injured by the Xianming flying sword. Although the quantity of Wang Feng's spiritual power had decreased after being compressed, its quality had increased, and its power had also increased. Even when facing an expert at the level of the 1,000 Dao flow, it would still be able to bring about great trouble and injuries. Now that Wang Feng's other soul skills have been upgraded to a 100,000-year rank, their strength had reached the same level. As an amplification-type soul skill, it was called divinization. At level 80, players could increase all of their basic attributes by 8 times. Although the increase in basic attributes didn't mean that their combat power would increase by 8 times, it did mean that all of their basic attributes would increase. It was equivalent to an 8-fold increase in the body's whiteness value. All of Wang Feng's amplification soul skills were basically doubled for every 10 ranks. Take the soul-devouring blood wings, for example. Because it came from the god-slaying spear, its attack power would be doubled. Apart from that, the 100,000-year deified soul skill didn't increase in strength, but it gave him an additional immunity to instant death. Wang Feng wasn't sure what effect this ability had, but thinking about it, it should be useful. His third soul skill, Thorny Lotus, boosted his defensive and rebounding abilities. In fact, now that he thought about it, when he fought BB Dawn, the reason why he was able to tie with BB Dawn with the Pango Axe was not only because of the Pango Axe's own strength, but also because BB Dawn would have to bear a huge rebounding force. However, this kind of rebound was often calculated by Wang Feng into the power of the Pango Axe, because every attack was triggered at the same time. As a result, every strike of the Pango Axe contained a terrifying amount of power. If Wang Feng's strength was divided into different levels, White Slate's first grade state didn't require any amplification. With the current strength of his body, his pure strength was terrifying. Wang Feng could even kick a title Dalu below rank 96 like a ball. Probably not many could take a punch from Wang Feng. Wang Feng could also kick a title Dalu above rank 96 and below rank 99 like a ball after activating the various forms of the chaotic green lotus. It wasn't impossible for him to smash them into smithereens with a single punch. This should be considered a second-grade state. Rank 99, such as the Thousand Streams and Possessi, were more troublesome. He had to be more serious. Activating the chaotic green lotus martial soul true body, coupled with the power of the blood patterns and the dark angel martial soul possession. Even in the sky or the sea, he could easily defeat them. It was the limit of third grade. Above there were demigods like Qian Rinxue and Bibidon. With Wang Feng's Panga axe combined with the empty realm state, he could only fight to a draw without using the explosive blood attack. Now, with the enhancement of his red soul rings, he could suppress them. However, Bibidon didn't activate his martial soul true body back then. If he used the explosive blood attack, it would be a matter of life and death. It was a fourth-grade state that exceeded the limit. Self-created offensive techniques like the mysterious underworld flying sword, the chaotic 8 notes, and the absolute wind and thunder spear were not considered in this grade. However, no matter which of these 3 techniques, their power could cause great damage to title Dalu below rank 99. Especially with the mysterious underworld flying sword. With Wang Feng's current spiritual power, he could kill enemies thousands of meters away. During these days of recovery, Wang Feng had been comprehending the cultivator's secret word and didn't cultivate the front secret word. Hence, his spiritual power didn't compress much and was still a pool. The enhancement brought by the red soul rings was not small. To be able to reach this level of strength at level 80 was another limit for Wang Feng. Before the next time he checked in, the only way to improve was to obtain a million-year soul ring and reach rank 90. Or increase the power of his self-created soul skills. As for after rank 90, that would probably be a new chapter. With the Meteoric Tear's secret word, Wang Feng's soul power could barely reach rank 80 and maintain it for a while. However, he would probably have to rely on the cauldron of heaven and earth to refine soul crystals for his cultivation. Now that he had sensed the danger premonition of a million-year soul beast, he could roughly tell that it was in the Great Stardow Forest. I'll go to the Great Stardow Forest first and see what's going on. After that, I'll go to the extreme north to take a look. The reconstruction of my heart should be completed soon, at most 10 days. Wang Feng touched his chest. The hole had already disappeared, and the flesh on the surface had already regenerated. Only the model of his heart was still slowly solidifying. He had recovered more than half of his strength, and had even become stronger. As he looked at the boundless sea, Wang Fengxin knew that it was time to leave. After 3 years in the sea, Wang Feng could finally return to the sea. Wang Feng flapped his blood-red wings and flew into the distance with instant teleportation. With Wang Feng's current speed, if he used the Dark Angel's possession, his 14 black light wings would be even faster than the Thousand Streams. In less than 2 days, Wang Feng could see the sea level. As he had been blasted into the sea by the Bibidon's final attack, and drifted with the sea for a period of time, Wang Feng wasn't sure where he was exactly. He could only rely on the sense of danger in his heart to determine that he was heading towards the Great Stardow Forest. There seemed to be a city on the sea level in the distance. It looked extraordinary. However, the strange thing was that there was a dense, blood-red cloud floating in the sky above the city. End of this chapter. Chapter 850. Why does this thing seem so familiar? What a strong aura. It's only slightly weaker than the Thousand Dao Stream. Damn, I remember now. This is the King of Massacre? Wang Fengxin's heart skipped a beat. Back then, in the city of Massacre, Tang Xin used the Swan's Kiss immortal herb to destroy the source of the city of Massacre, the blood pool, and increase its toxicity. Those people in the city of Massacre liked to drink Bloody Mary, and this Bloody Mary came from this blood pool. Everyone in the city of Massacre was probably dead. Could this King of Massacre be here for revenge? Then, Has he found his enemy? I remember that the King of Massacre was Tang Chun in the original novel. Oh no, Hulaina. Wang Feng seemed to have thought of something and quickly flew forward. At the same time, he used his spiritual power, and a mysterious underworld flying sword pierced through the clouds at an even faster speed. If the King of Massacre had met Tang San, there shouldn't have been such a bloody cloud. This was because Tang San had the sea god's inheritance and the sea god's trident. Furthermore, he was Tang Chin's great-grandson. No matter what, he wouldn't have killed Tang San. There was a high chance that he had woken up. However, if he had met Hulaina, he would be in trouble. Now, the progress of Tang San's group and Hulaina's group had been messed up by him. Wang Feng was sure that the King of Massacre had met Hulaina. Hulaina couldn't die no matter what. At the same time, in the city below the blood cloud, this was a coastal city. Below, there was a square, and there were corpses everywhere. Most of the surrounding buildings had been destroyed. It seemed that there had been an intense battle. In the center of the square, there were dozens of soul masters and even two titled lying on the ground. Blood flowed like a stream and filled the cracks in the stone ground. The two titled Douluo, the ghost Douluo, and the chrysanthemum Douluo were bleeding profusely. Their soul rings were faintly discernible, and their auras were extremely unstable. On the other side, there were several soul Douluo and more than 10 soul masters above rank 60. Most of them were dead. Behind the two titled Douluo, Hulaina was lying on the ground with a pale look on her face. She was clutching her chest and lower abdomen. Beside him were Evil Moon and Flame, the two of them who had left the Sea God's Island with BB Dong's group after the incident at the Sea God's Island. However, his entire body was riddled with injuries. Half a month had passed since the incident on the Sea God's Island. Tang San had left the coastal city a few days ago. That day, after Hulaina finished speaking, she returned to the city and continued to pretend to patrol the coast. That was until Qian Rinxue brought 3 titled Douluo over to ask about the situation. However, there was still no sign of Tang San and the others. Qian Rinxue did not even bother and returned to Martial Spirit City directly. Only the 2 titled Douluo, Gue and Zhu, were left behind to observe for a few more days. If they didn't find Tang San and the others, they would immediately retreat to Martial Spirit City. After all, there had been no news for so long. They must have come ashore in advance. However, just as Hulaina was about to follow the 2 titled Douluo in retreat from the defensive line, the King of Massacre had appeared. Elders, please return to Martial Spirit City and report to Teacher. Hulaina coughed a few times. Her eyes were gloomy and her tone was calm. Just say that Laina didn't complete the mission and didn't catch Tang San. Bring my brother and Flame back. He's here to kill me. It has nothing to do with you. Hulaina looked at the hazy figure in front of her in the boundless bloodlight. There was a huge bat-like wing on his back. The King of Massacre was terrifyingly strong. The other party also had the Killing God domain, but it was much stronger than her Killing God domain. It was on a completely different level. In the other party's domain, she couldn't even use her soul skills. It was the same for the 2 elders. The domain covered by the bloodlight made it difficult for the 2 elders to even use their martial soul fusion skills. It was a complete one-sided suppression. Those bloodthirsty eyes were filled with incomparable anger. The hoarse voice seemed to come from hell. Tiske, none of you can escape. The King of Massacre's face was flushed red, and a strange smile appeared on his face. He looked at Hulaina and the 2 titled Douluo who were already at their wits' end. You destroyed my capital of massacre, so I'm going to destroy you too. Other than you, there are 2 other bastards. Don't worry, I'll kill all of you one by one. I'll suck every drop of blood from your bodies to relieve my current pain. As he said this, the King of Massacre suddenly roared. The sword-shaped demonic pattern between his brows suddenly emitted an even more intense bloodlight. The ghost Douluo and the chrysanthemum Douluo groaned and retreated quickly. Under the strange Killing God domain, their strength was greatly reduced. They had already killed more than 10 soul sages and a few soul Douluo. They were already very lucky. If the 2 of them were to fight here, Hulaina, Evil Moon, and the others would die even faster. Elders, let's go, Hulaina said softly. The ghost Douluo and Chrysanthemum Douluo looked at each other and frowned. Lasu, we watched you grow up and become the Pope's disciple. The Chrysanthemum Douluo said, you passed the capital of massacre in the Sea God's Islands test. Your potential is limitless. You're the next Pope, and you want us to give up on you and return to the martial soul hall? We can't bear the Pope's anger. Old ghost, what do you think? Same. The ghost Douluo nodded. But I don't want to live anymore. Hulaina muttered, what's the point of saving me? Hearing this, the Chrysanthemum Douluo and the ghost Douluo were stunned. Pope Tif's death was a huge blow to the Holy Lady. Initially, the Pope wanted to matchmake the two of them. Over the past few years, they had been together on the Sea God's Island. The two of them had met in the capital of massacre, and Pope Tif had entered the martial soul hall. Their relationship was probably very deep. Furthermore, they had been together on the Sea God's Island for 3 years. At this moment, the King of Massacre's cold and evil voice sounded. You dare to be distracted? Even if the two of you are titled Douluo, you're courting death. Swish, swish. 2 streaks of blood-red light flashed. The King of Massacre's blood-red wings started to spin as he moved. They formed 2 blood-red wings that tore through space. They carried a terrifying aura as they slashed towards the two of them. Bang, bang. The 2 titled Douluo's expressions changed. Just as they circulated their soul power, a blood-red light attacked their spiritual energy. It was very frightening. The sharp blood wings instantly shattered the 2 people's soul power barriers and directly slashed open a huge bloody wound on their bodies, instantly sending them flying. Boom, boom, boom. The 2 of them were sent flying into a house in the distance. They smashed through countless layers of rock, causing several houses to collapse. Seeing this, Hulaina's body shook. She struggled to stand up. However, her soul rings couldn't light up anymore. Evidently, she didn't have much strength left. You have the will to die. It seems like you know your limits. The King of Massacre laughed. Although he didn't have any soul rings, he could unleash a lot of strength with every attack. After speaking, the King of Massacre left an afterimage on the spot. He attacked Hulaina again. His sharp palm was like a scythe. It was about to reap Hulaina's life. However, at this moment, a streak of sword light came from the west. It drew a long arc in midair. It was like a setting sun as it blasted towards the King of Massacre. P.S. How many more updates are there tonight? End of this chapter. Chapter 851. The sword light was like a rainbow. The light green sword light carried a terrifying aura as it blasted towards the King of Massacre. Almost at the first moment, that enormous sword ray caused the King of Slaughter to be shocked in his heart. A premonition of danger arose in his heart. In the next moment, the King of Massacre's figure suddenly stopped. He was less than a few meters away from Hulaina. The huge blood-red light seemed to be unable to stop that light green sword light. Instead, when the sword light entered the blood-red light, it seemed to tear a hole in the domain and cut it open. The King of Massacre was shocked. He did not have time to sense who had released this sword light. He immediately used the 2 bat-like wings on his back to wrap it up, forming a special wing iron wall. The blood gold light flowed on the wing iron wall, giving it a feeling of indestructibility. This was the King of Massacre's defensive technique. The wings on his back could not only be used for attack, but also for defense. With the support of the domain, unless one was of the same level, one would not be able to break through his defense. However, in the next moment, the light green flying sword carried a long rainbow as it landed on the blood gold wings. Clang! An ear-piercing sound could be heard. The iron wall formed by the wings was cut open at a speed visible to the naked eye. A huge force landed on the King of Massacre. Without the protection of the wings, the sword light instantly blasted the King of Massacre dozens of meters away, creating a long trench on the ground. Boom! In the end, the King of Massacre crashed into a dilapidated house, causing the entire house to collapse. The light green sword floated in midair, emitting a bright light. Roar! In the ruins that seemed to have collapsed, a loud roar could be heard. At this moment, Hulaina opened her eyes and looked at this scene in a daze. The 2-meter-long green sword that could be called a huge sword was placed in front of her, emitting a cold and heavy aura. The surrounding air seemed to have solidified. Hulaina's pupils shrank slightly. She was a little dazed and confused. This sword crackled. In the ruins, the King of Massacre's body was emitting a blood-red light. The 2 bats on his back had a visible wound. The King of Massacre looked at the green sword and roared like thunder. He clearly didn't sense any soul masters. Where did this cyan sword come from? What the hell was that? However, the green longsword didn't waste any time talking to him. A sword light flashed through the air. Swish! Swish! He directly slashed out 7 sword beams. The sword beams formed a sword beam in the air, containing an extremely destructive power. Fear flashed through the King of Massacre's eyes, and the blood-red light around his body became even brighter. He clenched his fists and punched out several times towards the green sword net formed by the 7 sword rays. Every punch contained an extremely dense blood-red light. Every time he threw out a ray of sword light, the power of the sword light would be reduced slightly. However, the green longsword didn't seem to know exhaustion. It pierced through the clouds and exploded with sword light. Then, the sword light slashed down at the King of Massacre. The heart of the King of Slaughter, who had just broken through the sword net, trembled violently. The demonic sword mark between his brows glowed brightly. The majestic power caused his already flushed cheeks to look as if they had been smeared with blood. The blood bats formed an iron wall once again. A blood-red light barrier surged out from the blood bats, forming a second line of defense. However, the green longsword sword light seemed to be able to slash through a mountain. In an instant, the King of Massacre was annihilated. The entire square trembled. This wasn't a big city, and the people had already retreated. At this moment, it was as if there was an earthquake. The King of Massacre supported himself with both hands. His face turned from red to white. The sword light landed on his head, and he barely managed to block it. Poochie, the King of Massacre, spat out a mouthful of blood. As the blood in his body surged, his strength surged. He had no choice but to retreat to the side. Boom! The sword light, which was dozens of meters long, slashed open a several-meter-wide ravine in the middle of the square. The King of Massacre gasped for breath. He looked at the green longsword with horror in his eyes. Who exactly is it? The King of Massacre's eyes were extremely cold. However, no one responded to him. The only thing that responded to him was the long sword that was emitting a green light. Swish! 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 The green longsword attacked the King of Massacre again. The sword light crisscrossed the ruins. The majestic blood-red light released a bloodthirsty aura that made one's heart palpitate. From Hulaina's point of view, this scene was extremely strange. The incomparably powerful King of Massacre was completely suppressed by this green longsword that came out of nowhere. The low and sonorous groans and the sound of the ground breaking formed a messy and beautiful background. Hulaina looked at this scene as if she was in a dream. Am I dreaming? The powerful King of Massacre was actually forced to this state by a green longsword. In fact, she didn't know that the King of Massacre had not fully displayed his strength at this moment. At this moment, he was only the King of Massacre. The evil and bloodthirsty light had already invaded his consciousness, making it difficult for him to display his true strength. Unless someone could completely purify the blood-red light on his body and restore his consciousness, he would not be able to reveal his true appearance and strength. However, at this moment, Hulaina was getting more and more shocked. She felt like she was sleepwalking. This was because she remembered correctly. In the entire continent, the only person who could use such an attack was Sordao Chun Xian. Only Pope Tif Wang Wu could do it. Furthermore, the move used by the green longsword seemed to be Chun Xian's 7-killing swordplay. The strange thing was that no one was using it at this moment. It seemed to be used by itself. It was so powerful that it was unbelievable. This was definitely not done by the sword Douluo. He was not that powerful. That green longsword was also not the 7-killing sword. In that case, there was only one possibility. Wang Wu. Wang Wu. Hulaina looked around. Even with her eyesight and spiritual power, she couldn't find anyone. After a moment, the King of Massacre was gradually unable to hold on. He looked at the green sword light, and a trace of fear flashed across his eyes. Today, I will spare your life. The King of Massacre looked at Hulaina unwillingly. After that, he roared. His body was covered in sticky and smelly blood. He suddenly spread out and fled in the opposite direction. The green sword light spun in midair, but it didn't chase after him. Hulaina was stunned. He was chased away just like that. After a moment, the green longsword seemed to have received an order. It transformed into a ray of light and flew away freely. Hulaina, it's you. It's definitely you. You didn't die, Hulaina muttered to herself. She wiped the dirt and tears off her face. Her eyes regained some spirit. End of chapter. Chapter 852. On the other side, the green longsword slowly flew several thousand meters away from the city. It was beside a human figure who was heading in the direction of the great Douluo forest. It turned into countless streaks of green light and fused with the human figure. It seems like the King of Massacre hasn't met Tang San yet. He hasn't even recovered. This figure was none other than Wang Feng. He didn't even land. Instead, he flew across the city sky. When a shimmering flying sword hit the King of Massacre, Wang Feng knew that there was no need for him to land. The King of Massacre wasn't strong enough for him to land. When he finished speaking, it was inevitable that he and Hulaina would start chattering and weeping. It would be too troublesome to hug and cry then. Wang Feng still had things to do. Naturally, he didn't want to stay. Throughout the entire process, Wang Feng used his strong spiritual power to control the shimmering flying sword and unleashed the modified 7 lethal sword technique. Old Master Jian's 7 lethal sword technique was still useful. Wang Feng only needed to store his soul power in the shimmering flying sword and unleash it with his spiritual power. He could achieve this by condensing the 7 lethal sword intent. He probably couldn't use the soul power stored in the shimmering flying sword anymore. It was a pity that the King of Massacre wasn't strong now. He was a little like Bibidon before he passed the 8th test. He looked like he was at rank 99, but he could only unleash rank 98 abilities. Also, the evil and bloodthirsty bloody light on the King of Massacre was controlling him. It concealed most of his abilities. The sword-shaped mark between his brows should be the symbol of the god's inheritance. Tang Chun must have been attacked in the god's inheritance. Wang Feng recalled what he sensed with the Xianming flying sword. It wasn't hard to guess. Wang Feng knew Tang Chen's identity. However, he wasn't sure about the specific situation. But if he was a rank 99 peak Douluo, he wouldn't be so weak. He wouldn't be forced to such an extent by his 7 lethal sword technique. Either his abilities were injured or his consciousness was muddled. He couldn't unleash all his abilities. Most importantly, he didn't even release his soul rings. Otherwise, Wang Feng would have to show himself. But if he recovered, Tang Chun wouldn't have killed Hulaina. Furthermore, Tang Chun should have been poisoned. When Tang San threw the snow swan's kiss into the blood pool, its toxicity was greatly enhanced. As the king of slaughter, he would definitely be affected as well. I should be able to cleanse his current state easily with the white lotus. Wang Feng shook his head. But this is Xiao San's problem. I won't delay your reunion. Just save Hulaina. Hulaina did not succeed. The king of killers must have gone to look for Tang San. His figure gradually shrank in midair, and he gradually left the city. With Wang Feng's current speed, he arrived at the Great Douluo Forest periphery in less than half a day. In that instant, Wang Feng sensed a unique aura and a premonition of danger. His heart was racing. Although the forward secret word did not allow Wang Feng to foresee the specific situation, the forward secret word did not allow Wang Feng to predict the specific situation. But once it worked, that premonition of danger was absolutely right. But not all of them were spiritual. He didn't have this feeling when he was fighting with the BB-Dawn. It was so dangerous, yet he didn't have any premonition. After all, he hadn't cultivated the front secret character for long, and it was sometimes ineffective. There was nothing he could do about it. By the way, the BB-Dawn shouldn't be here, right? Wang Fengxian thought. I remember to ask Whale Shark and the other two to come to the Great Star Doe Forest to take a look when they are free. But the three of them are aquatic creatures. I think only the Blackwater Crocodile and the Blood Dragon should be able to do it. If Whale Shark is on land, his strength will be greatly reduced. I don't know if he came here. Bibidon's last test is to obtain 200,000 year soul rings as the 10th soul ring. Only then can she become the real Rakshasa god. The last time I fought, she didn't seem to have obtained 100,000 year soul ring. I hope she doesn't come to kill the great Ming dynasty's 2 Ming dynasties. Looking at the Great Star Doe Forest in front of him, Wang Fengxian frowned slightly. When BB-Dawn was a demigod, he couldn't bear it if she became a god now. Could it be that he had to be killed by her again? But when he thought of the evil death light's roar and the expression in Bibidon's eyes, Wang Feng knew that she probably didn't want to kill him. After all, he was her only confidant and knew everything about her. BB-Dawn, don't mess around. Wang Feng thought for a long time and stepped into the Great Star Doe Forest. Not long after entering the Great Star Doe Forest, Wang Feng discovered that the Great Star Doe Forest was emitting an extremely strange aura. It was energy. The original Great Star Doe Forest contained an incomparably fresh aura, and the energy was also more abundant and pure. But now it was emitting a faint, nauseating aura. Evil thoughts, ignorant and endless evil thoughts. Wang Feng's pupils emitted a bright light, and he seemed to be able to see a faint black fog in this bright light. Could it be that the awakening of the million-year soul beast has triggered this Great Star Doe Forest? Wang Feng took a deep breath. Wang Feng had only seen the first part of Douluo's first book, and he had only heard about the later parts. But in this Great Star Doe Forest, there were definitely powerful soul beasts that surpassed the Great Ming and the Second Ming. It was just that Douluo's first book didn't mention them. Therefore, Wang Feng wasn't sure. Now, because of his appearance and the changes in the system, something incredible might have appeared in the Great Star Doe Forest. A million-year soul beast. Even the deep-sea demon whale didn't seem to have reached a million-year level and was only infinitely close. A true million-year soul beast meant that soul beast had stepped into the realm of gods. Wang Feng released his aura and sensed his surroundings, as if he was in tune with all things. He didn't have the innate blue-silver domain that Tang San had. In this world of plants, he could maximize his senses, and he could sense all kinds of things through all kinds of plants. But Wang Feng's dustless glass body had become even stronger after being cleansed by the chaotic divine light. The dustless glass body was formed after being tempered by the red lotus karmic fire. It wasn't tainted by any karma, and its body was as clear as glass, comparable to Tang Sanzang's flesh, and could resonate with all things. Whether it was in the forest or in the ocean, Wang Feng's body would attract the attention of countless living beings. Now that his heart had been reforged, his blood essence was even clearer, and his aura was even purer. To put it bluntly, even if his looks were ordinary, he would attract everyone's attention if he was thrown into a crowd, and people couldn't help but want to get close to him. But he was also inhumanely handsome. If he was thrown into a crowd at this moment, Wang Feng used his spiritual power to connect with all the living beings around him through his aura. It was as if he was in tune with their lives, and he could sense their world. A flower, a leaf, a grass, a tree, a bee, a small snake, a bird. Wang Feng could communicate with them through his spiritual power, and he could share his senses. Invisible threads formed by spiritual power extended from Wang Feng's body like a huge net, and they extended to all the living beings around him. In a chapter. Chapter 853. Damn, this bee actually wants to follow me? Is my charm so great that it transcends the boundaries of creatures? Wang Feng shuddered as he opened his eyes. His eyes flickered. Through perception sharing, Wang Feng could also feel the emotions of many creatures. It seems that I am so handsome that it transcends the boundaries of species. Could there be a race that has a completely opposite aesthetic to humans and thinks that I am ugly? Wang Feng thought for a moment and looked in one direction. He sensed a familiar aura. It was the aura of the blue silver grass. Wang Feng thought for a moment, picked up a blue silver grass from the side, put it in his mouth, and walked away. In addition to the aura of the blue silver grass, Wang Feng also sensed several powerful auras, one of which was Bibidon. Secondly, in addition to the two great Ming, there were several 100,000-year soul beasts. Damn, why are there so many 100,000-year soul beasts? Even a few of them were unbelievably strong. There was also a person, a human with a strange aura. However, Wang Feng couldn't sense it very clearly because it was too far away. The human's whole body was shrouded in black fog. The black fog seemed to condense countless evil thoughts with an extremely powerful aura. If Wang Feng guessed correctly, this human should be the incarnation of a million-year soul beast, and it had just been born. It hadn't been long since the system's upgrade. Wang Feng wasn't sure whether this was caused by the system or originally existing. In addition, Wang Feng found that these soul beasts seemed to be somewhat familiar to Wang Feng, because their aura was very similar to that of the headless divine beast and the star five-headed dragon. Wang Feng now remembered clearly that when he came to the Great Star Dough Forest with a large team of Martial Spirit Palace to capture Xiao Wu, he encountered these two soul beasts fighting with the two Great Ming. At that time, he felt strange. When the two Great Ming were still alive, why would there be soul beasts fighting with them inexplicably? Thinking of this, Wang Feng quickly walked in that direction. The two Great Ming seemed to be surrounded by a circle of soul beasts. Tang, some must have sensed it too. Bibidon's target didn't seem to be the two Great Ming. It might just be hunting soul beasts in the Great Star Dough Forest. Wang Feng's eyes flashed, and he faintly felt that something was wrong. In another place in the Great Star Dough Forest, Tang San's figure leaped rapidly in the jungle. His speed was incomparably fast when he was running at full speed. Ever since he left Hu Laina that day, he had heard Hu Laina's words. Big Brother Feng is dead? Bullshit. Tang San did not believe it at all. How many times had he died? He didn't believe that Big Brother Feng was really dead. Just as Senior Possessee said, even if they were dead, Big Brother Feng couldn't be dead. When they heard the news, everyone was shocked, especially Ning Rongrong, who almost fainted. Later, under Tang San's persuasion, he reluctantly believed that Wang Feng could not have died. He would definitely show up at some point. At this point, the 9 people, especially Ning Rongrong, finally recovered. Thinking about it later, it made sense. How could Wang Feng die just like that? Therefore, everyone decided to go their separate ways and return to their respective homes to check on the situation. Because the situation on the continent was simply too complicated. The Martial Soul Alliance now had the potential to become the master of the continent, without using a single soldier, without starting a single war. This was something that none of them expected. They went back to report that they were safe, and at the same time, asked about what had happened on Sea God's Island. After that, they gathered again to discuss countermeasures and find out more about Wang Feng. Although Tang San wanted to revive Xiao Wu, he had not become a titled Douluo yet. He planned to return to the Great Star Dough Forest to check on the Great Ming and Air Ming. Then, he would return to the Setting Sun Forest's Ice Fire Yin-Yang Well. However, after arriving at the Great Star Dough Forest, Tang San felt that something was wrong. Very bad. Brother, I've never seen such a disgusting, evil aura in the Great Star Dough Forest. Xiao Wu flew out from Tang San's soul ring and frowned as she followed beside Tang San. I'm afraid that some evil soul beasts have appeared in the Great Star Dough Forest. I don't know if the Great Ming and Air Ming are in danger. After hearing this, Tang San became even more vigilant. Xiao Wu had lived in the Great Star Dough Forest for so long, and this was her home. Even she had never seen something like this. What did this mean? The vast sea cosmic shroud appeared in Tang San's hand, and the triangular vast sea cosmic shroud gently enveloped him. As a safety measure, it could block the senses of many soul beasts. I hope nothing bad happens to them. In the depths of the lake. At this moment, the clear lake was stained with blood. The sky azure bull python and the heaven collapsing giant ape stood back to back. Two different types of blood stained their bodies and flowed into the lake where they had lived for many years. There were 4 different types of soul beasts around them, all of them glaring at them with hostility. At the forefront was a 9-headed snake soul beast. Speak, how did old 6 and old 7 die? The 9-headed snake soul beast let loose a violent roar, and each of its heads repeated the same sentence over and over again. His body was huge. In addition to his 9 heads, he also had 3 arms on his back that looked like spider legs. The spider legs were covered with 1-meter-long thorns that looked like sharp blades. It gave off a very eerie feeling. In terms of size, the 9-headed snake soul beast was not inferior to the Titan giant ape. In fact, it was even slightly more powerful. However, the aura emanating from its body was extremely vicious and sinister, and each of its heads was exuding a sinister aura. None of my business, Erming said in a low, muffled voice. You've been dead for 2 or 3 years, yet you're only asking me now? If you want to kill me, then just say it. What's the point of wasting time with excuses? You're a soul beast, so why are you acting like a complete idiot like those humans? The 9-headed snake's soul beast. Deming surveyed his surroundings with his bull eyes. These soul beasts were all extremely sinister soul beasts, and they had been targeted not long after that crimson golden pillar of light had appeared. They claimed to be the brothers of the 5-headed star dragon and the headless divine beast. However, Deming knew that things weren't that simple. Aside from this 9-headed snake, there were 3 other soul beasts. They were situated in 4 different directions around the lake. The one at the forefront was a 9-headed snake, while the one to its left was a black rhinoceros that was leisurely drinking water. This rhinoceros had all types of black demonic patterns all over its body, and even though it was shorter than Erming, it possessed extremely powerful abilities. This was a black demon tiger, striped rhinoceros, an extremely rare and sinister 100,000-year-old soul beast. At this moment, the lake water was stained with the blood of Erming and Erming, but the black demon tiger, striped rhinoceros, was drinking with relish, and with each sip, a hint of crimson light appeared in its eyes. On the right was a deer that was feasting on meat. Most deer soul beasts were gentle soul beasts, but this one was feasting on meat. When it opened its mouth, it was a massive mouth that was filled with sharp fangs. However, when it closed its mouth, it looked no different from a normal deer. End of chapter. Chapter 854. However, it was also black in color and was covered in all types of devilish patterns. Even the 2 antlers on its head were covered in inky black patterns. Its eyes were also glowing, and it appeared to be quite relaxed. The dense black mist emanating from the entire lake was coming from the antlers of this deer. It wasn't very tall, and it wasn't even a third of Erming's height. However, it was the only soul beast that had managed to bite off a piece of flesh from his body. Within its teeth was a poison that could destroy one's spiritual will. This was the dark I-7 poisons deer. It was also an extremely evil soul beast. It was also the most dangerous soul beast out of all of them. The final one was hovering in midair behind them. It was a flying centipede, a flaming flying centipede. This centipede was the largest of the 4. No, it was the longest. It was at least over 100 meters long. There were only over 50 segments in total, and each segment was over 2 meters long. They were covered in all types of barbs, and there was a layer of stone that was shimmering with dark light that resembled armor. Its head was the most hideous of all, and it had 2 long feelers on its head. The flames on its body seemed to be relentless, and even the water in the lake and Deming's own attacks were unable to extinguish the flames on its body. At this moment, it was opening its mouth to let loose a series of roars that were accompanied by bursts of scorching flames. Flaming Devil Fiend. That was the centipede's name. into Ming and Air Ming's memories. These four soul beasts were all very ancient soul beasts, and they hadn't heard of them for a long time. However, they had appeared after the pillar of golden light had risen into the air. They seemed to be in cahoots with the five-headed star dragon and the headless general from before. The reason why those two soul beasts had fought with them was very simple. Those two soul beasts wanted them to hand over their territory and submit to their master. De Ming and Air Ming naturally refused, and they began to fight. Over 3 years ago, Old 6 and Old 7 refused to listen to us and came up with an idea in advance. Even our master hasn't made a breakthrough yet. The dark nightmare, 7 Poisons Deer, let out a low growl as it continued to chew on the piece of meat it had just torn from De Ming's mouth. Master has instructed that we are not to leave without his permission before he appears. That's why Old 6 and Old 7 lost their lives, because of you two. You two, be smart and stop struggling. The reason why we didn't kill the two of you just now is because we feel that the two of you are talented. The 7 Poisons Deer's tone was somewhat sinister, but it was even more frightening than the Hydra's voice. Bullsh asterisk T. The Titan giant ape gripped the battered Atlas staff in his hand. If you want us to submit, you'll have to ask the staff in my hand first. Hearing this, the 4 soul beasts froze and stopped what they were doing. Big brother, will you be scared if you die in battle today? Air Ming roared. A surge of heroic spirit seemed to surge in his chest. I'm afraid, De Ming said. Air Ming. De Ming sighed softly. I'm afraid that Xiao Wu hasn't revived yet. I'm afraid that Xiao Wu is in danger. I'm afraid that human won't be able to protect Xiao Wu. Hearing this, Air Ming stabbed the staff into the ground and looked at the 4 soul beasts. His honest and straightforward eyes exuded a ferocious aura. He was also afraid and worried about what De Ming had said. But now we have no choice. De Ming looked at the 4 ferocious soul beasts. Air Ming and I will never collude with you evil soul beasts. Seeing this, the 9-headed snake immediately roared, "Kill them!" In the next instant, the other 3 soul beasts howled and released terrifying auras from their mouths. The first to make a move was the pitch-black 7 Poisons Deer. Its antlers shone with a pitch-black light, and boundless black mist spread out from its antlers in all directions. The pungent and evil black mist symbolized the power of a domain. Among the 4 soul beasts, this 7 Poisons Deer didn't know how to attack, but it had an extremely powerful domain. The pungent and evil black mist had no effect on the other 3 soul beasts, but it was fatal to De Ming and Air Ming. In terms of cultivation, this 7 Poisons Deer was the weakest, but in terms of strategic effectiveness, it was the most powerful. De Ming and Air Ming's domains could even be corroded by this domain. The wounds they had sustained came from this domain. At the same time, the black demon tiger, striped rhinoceros, stomped the ground, and the entire ground seemed to tremble as the lake in front of it split open. It was able to walk freely on the surface of the water, and the demonic patterns on its body lit up as it charged toward De Ming and Air Ming like a black whirlwind. The raging inferno fiend centipede in midair spewed out a stream of scorching flames, dyeing the entire sky in the color of flames. De Ming and Air Ming roared. Right at this moment, a dazzling blue light struck the 7 Poisons Deer from not far away. In a split second, the 100,000-year soul beast let out an extremely painful howl within the dazzling blue light. The pure light seemed to be expelling the evil aura from the 7 Poisons Deer. The power of the domain disappeared in an instant. The pressure on De Ming and Air Ming was greatly reduced. At the same time, a figure appeared as if he had teleported. The blue gold trident became as long as a meter, and the trident pierced through the back of the 7 Poisons Deer. But at this moment, the demonic patterns on the 7 Poisons Deer lit up, forming an extremely sturdy black gold wall. The trident was only able to pierce half a meter in before it was unable to penetrate any further. But this was enough to kill the 7 Poisons Deer. If the demonic patterns on the 7 Poisons Deer had not lit up at the last moment, to form a special wall, it would have died instantly. However, the demonic patterns quickly disappeared after they lit up, as if it was a one-time, life-saving skill. Boom! In the next moment, the figure quickly retreated. It was covered by a layer of pale blue light again. It was none other than Tang San. He was the first to arrive, but he did not make a move immediately. Instead, he quietly observed and waited. He had heard the whole story of the siege of the 400,000-year soul beasts. He did not make a move immediately, as he did not know how powerful his opponents were. However, as soon as his opponents made a move, Tang San immediately determined that this black deer posed the greatest threat. This was because it had a domain, and it was a very powerful domain. Despicable human soul masters. The 7 poisons deer let loose an anguished wail. Get the hell out of here. However, Tang San had already put on the vast sea cosmic shroud again, and he had already disappeared into the distance through teleportation. Boss! The 7 poisons deer turned to the 9-headed snake. The 9-headed snake nodded, and dazzling light suddenly erupted from the eyes of the 3-headed snake. At the same time, Deming and Erming were battling the black demon tiger-striped rhinoceros and the inferno fiend centipede. If their senses were correct, that was Tang San. They had sensed Xiao Wu's aura. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.